Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. Good evening, everyone. We are going to be making a start. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed members of the Mico family, specially invited guests, friends all, I greet you well. It is my distinct honor and sincere pleasure to welcome you to this year's staging of the Glen Owen Lecture, an evening dedicated to thoughtful engagement, critical reflection, and honoring the legacy of a man whose influence on education continues to echo through time, Mr. Glenville Hamilton Owen. As we gather under the banner of Mico Week 189, we are reminded not only of the Mico's stored legacy, but also of the profound responsibility we carry to innovate, educate, and transform. This evening's theme, Innovate, Create, Succeed, STEM as your career superpower, speaks boldly to the responsibility. It challenges us to reimagine our roles in education and development, to see STEM not as a field reserved for the elite few, but as a powerful engine of opportunity, empowerment, and national transformation. It is only fitting that a conversation of this caliber be stewarded by someone who embodies excellence, leadership, and unwavering service to education. I now take great pride to introduce our moderator for this evening's lecture, an esteemed daughter of the Mico, Mrs. Suzette Mullings Douglas. For more than 3 decades, Mrs. Mullings Douglas has served the education system. At present, she is the acting principal of St. George's College, guiding one of Jamaica's most historic institutions with quiet strength, deep wisdom, and a trailblazing commitment to youth and nation building. A proud graduate of the Mico, she represents the very best of our heritage, an educator par excellence, who every step ignites change, whose leadership has lit a path for generations of learners and leaders alike. The Mico is immensely proud of her. She has blazed a trail of flaming service, and tonight she has come home to guide us through an evening of enlightenment and purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our moderator for the 2025 Glen Owen Lecture, Mrs. Suzette Mullings Douglas. Welcome.
What a way Mr. Lawson sound poetic, that I was looking around to see who he really was talking about. It is really my pleasure to stand here as moderator. Please note I don't have any experience, but then Mico is a place of training, so it's good training ground. To moderate such a topic at such a time. Innovating education in some way. When we say innovate, create, succeed, STEM as your career superpower. We talk about super meal, super sleep, super everything, but now we're talking about career and education in terms of superpower, a superpower career. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed my pleasure, as was mentioned before, to be back here at the Mico. It is home. And when I was asked, when I was coming in, if I knew where the lecture theater was, I said to them, I don't think the position changed from when I was a student. And it is right here. I've had many good memories in this place. And it is good to be home. So, we have with us some very esteemed persons. And as we grapple with the issue, we want to acknowledge their presence. We have with us the one who will lead us or sensitize us in this STEM as your career superpower, none other than Dr. Kevin Brown, the president of the University of Technology. We have, and we wish you a hearty Mico welcome. And if you are not a past student, we will embrace you nonetheless. The principal of the Mico is here with us as well. They call them president now, right? It's a very term that speaks of the fact that we are no longer a college, but a university college. Dr. Ashburn Pinnock, and we have Mr. Carl James, who is a figure that I remember from when I was a student. For all the educators among us, all the practicing practitioners, students in training, everyone, we are going to have a wonderful time grappling with something that we need to talk about as we move, as we say, in our global village. But before all of that, we're going to ask God's blessing on this proceeding, and I'm going to ask Reverend Bosworth Mullings to open in prayer for us. Could you please stand while we pray?
Can I say hello, cuz? I'll have to start with an apology. I have to leave because my headlights are compromised right now. And you know, with what is happening, I will have to make sure I stay on the right side of the law.
Amen.
All right? And before I pray, I want to say, hello, cuz. Because it says that all Mullings are related. So, let us pray. Gracious God, our Heavenly Father, as we gather to celebrate and honor the legacy of the Mico University College, and in particular, the legacy of the Honorable Glenville Owen, we ask your blessings and your guidance on our utterances and also on the seeds that will be sown in this lecture. Bless our guest speaker. Bless everyone attending. And may this not just be a lecture, but one that bears fruit, one that innovates, one that creates, one that sustains, so that persons here will be more empowered even as they leave. Thank you, Lord, that you have been the bedrock of this institution's history and legacy, and we will continue to acknowledge your presence. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Please be seated. Thank you.
That was indeed not a Baptist prayer. And I just want to also acknowledge the presence of Dr. Glenda Prescott, President of the Mico University College Alumni Association. And for others that I may have missed in getting the names, remember I'm in training, so I will get them as we go along. How many of you know anything about Glen Owen and what he stood for? Or anyone in here belonging to the Glen Owen Hall? Anything that Glen Owen did that was so outstanding? You know anything about him? Apart from the name of the hall. Anything? All right, can I get a young man? You look very, very intelligent. And guess what? Everybody in here looks very intelligent. All right? Could you tell me one thing you know about Glen Owen?
Yes, what I do know about him is that he was a past principal of the Mico.
Oh, he was a past principal of the Mico. Yes, that's true. Anybody else? Any little tidbit? Remember, even in the prayer, that it was said that he was an innovator in education. Anything? All right, some of you may have to take out your smartphones and start looking what Glenville Owen did. We have a hand over here. Yes, miss? Okay, he demoted his position as principal in 1971. All of these one weren't born then. Poor things. Yeah. So it seems like far away time. What about JTA? There is something that we celebrate that Glenville Owen was very instrumental in having. And as teachers, we need to know that. Which something am I talking about? Yes, and there's something else too. Wasn't he somewhat instrumental in Teachers' Day? So there are a number of things. So I think, especially those who live on the Mills Hall, that we need to do, and others, that we can't have such an innovator, a Jamaican. Maybe if I ask you about someone overseas, you'll be able to tell me that we need to know who Glenville Owen is. And as we go through, even though the lecture is not about him, but it is in his honor, that we need to find out who he is and his contribution to education. All right? So without further ado, I would like to invite a number of persons to come and give greetings. And it is in this order. The first is the president, Dr. Ashburn Pinnock, and then Dr. Glenda Prescott, in that order.
Well, you know, sports day was yesterday. Still the fever is still, yes. Who's the winner? They don't know yet because they have to be at the Founders Day ceremony tomorrow where they get their medals and the winners will be announced. But if you ask them, they'll tell you. It's Buxton, right? Okay, so is it Rogers? Oh, is it the one in blue? Lushington? Okay. And then there is Bishop, the purple. Is it Arthur Grant? See? So I'll save it until tomorrow, okay? Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Alvin Lawson, moderator, Mrs. Suzette Mullins, Douglas, I think we have something in, well, our husband and I have something in common. We went to the best high school in Jamaica. And yes, really. And so say hi for me, please. Yes. Chaplain Reverend Bosworth Mullings in absentia. We wish him all the best, and I hope the police does not stop him on the way home. Our Chancellor, Dr. Carl James, President of MOSA, Dr. Glenda Prescott, our guest preacher, presenter, he preached the gospel of STEM. So don't worry about it. President of UTEC, my good friend, Dr. Kevin, good to have you, sir. Dr. Claudette Morris, MOSA executive, other members of MOSA, our staff, our students, friends of the Mico, good afternoon. Good afternoon. On behalf of the Mico University College, I am very much honored to welcome each and every one of you to this year's Glen Owen's lecture. It's a signature event in our annual Mico Week celebration. And it's also a moment of opportunity, of collective reflection, inspiration, and of course, academic enrichment. This year we gather under the powerful theme of Innovate, Create, Succeed, STEM as your career superpower. It is a theme that aligns closely with our mission here at the Mico, to equip our students not just with knowledge, but with the skills, confidence, and values that lead to meaningful change in this world. STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, is more than just a field of study. It is a gateway to innovation, critical thinking, and global opportunity. So as educators and students, we must embrace the creative power of STEM to shape industries, solve problems, and design a future that reflects both progress and purpose. In this way, STEM becomes a true career superpower capable of transforming lives and communities. It's not just to pass an exam or to satisfy a requirement. Today's theme reminds us of the ability to innovate, to create, and ultimately to succeed. It's within the reach of every student that embraces these disciplines with curiosity, dedication, and vision. So at the Mico, we believe that STEM is not just a set of subjects. It's a mindset. It's a way of thinking that encourages problem solving and creativity. It equips our students that encourages problem solving and creativity. And it keeps you not only in step with what is happening in the world, but it should drive you to create that culture. And STEM is indeed a culture. The true practice of STEM is indeed a culture. So we are deeply honored to welcome as our distinguished guest presenter today, Dr. Kevin Brown, President of the University of Technology. Dr. Brown is a visionary leader, a highly respected academic, and a passionate advocate for technology advancement and educational reform. His presence here today reminds us of the importance of collaboration across institutions. In fact, when he came, I think the Mico probably one of the first institutions that he visited. We had a good chat in my office, and he brought a team down. So he's really someone who wishes to collaborate, and we will be doing much more together, Dr. Kevin. And we are grateful today for the insights and inspiration that he brings to this occasion. Dr. Brown, thank you for accepting our invitation, sir, and for sharing your knowledge with us and the Mico community. This lecture series also carries special significance, as it is named in the honor of the Honorable Glen Owen, an outstanding educator and former principal of the Mico University College. It was then the Mico institution, the Mico College, right, at the time. Teachers College. Mr. Owen served with distinction during a time of transition and transformation, helping to shape the institution into the dynamic force of educational leadership that it is today. His commitment to academic excellence and teacher training remains a guiding light for our work. This lecture stands as a tribute to his enduring legacy and his belief in the power of knowledge to uplift and to empower. As a historic institution committed to educational excellence and nation building, we at the Mico are proud to be part of this essential conversation. And this is not just that we are a part of it. In fact, Dr. Kevin will tell you that the Mico is one of the leading force in the STEM discussion here in Jamaica and the conversation and the narrative. We know that the future belongs to those who can combine knowledge with creativity and character. That is what makes STEM not just a career path, but a career superpower. And so today's lecture is more than just a conversation, it's an opportunity to challenge and challenge how we think about our careers, to explore the ways in which STEM can fuel innovation and growth, and to empower the next generation of leaders who will solve the problems we have yet imagined. To our distinguished speakers, guests, faculty, and especially our students, I thank you for being part of today's lecture. May it be a source of insight, inspiration, and renewed determination as we continue to push the boundaries of what is possible. So as we begin this session, I encourage each of you, especially our students, to listen closely and ask questions and allow yourselves to be inspired. Let today ignite new ideas, new goals, and renewed belief in your ability to innovate, create, and succeed. So thank you for being here, and I wish you a thought-provoking and rewarding lecture. Let us continue to do it with our might. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. Chair, Mr. Alvin Lawson, Chancellor, Dr. Carl James, President of the Mico University, Dr. Asburn Pinnock, Dr. Kevin Brown, our guest speaker, Reverend Boswell, who has already left, and I must mention Miss Barbara Campbell, the mother of our guest speaker. And Miss Suzette Mullins Douglas. Also, the MOSA executive, all the MOSA executive members, all the other members of MOSA, our guests, all our guests this evening, and our students. Welcome. It gives me great pleasure to express warm greetings to you all. Now, I will fill in where others maybe have left out something. And I'm going to focus on Glen Owen. Now, this series was a brainchild of one of MOSA's past president, Mr. Burchell Duhaney, who is not here this evening, And incidentally, the first lecture was given by Professor Rex Nettleford and followed by the next year by Mr. Rennis Johnson, who is now deceased. And I have to mention his wife, Mervis Johnson, who was also, or is also a Miconian. And I must mention also that the Johnsons have contributed to several substantial projects at their alma mater, including awarding of annual scholarships. Today's lecture is anticipated to be as excellent as all those that have gone before, which has left a blazing trail of thought-provoking educational discourse. Notwithstanding, Mr. Owen was the first graduate, don't forget now, who has risen to become principal of this noble institution. Second, he came at a time when there was need to expand and develop the college, and therefore, he started the first phase of the physical development of the college, at which time all the halls were built. Incidentally, there was also an expansion in the student body, and by that expansion also in the teaching staff. When Mr. Owen came, the student body was just over 100 students. And then, when he demitted office, there were over 1,000 students. We consider Glen Owen's tenure as principal as an institutional developer very significant because under Mr. Owen's leadership, the college grew physically and numerically. New programs were introduced and the quality of the staff improved. Now, these lectures are in keeping with the mandate of the organization, which is the Mico University College Alumni Association, MOSA, which is committed to preserving the traditions of the Mico University College. And we believe that this college is a beacon of educational excellence. Today's lecture is anticipated to be excellent as all those gone, which has left a blazing trail. We look at innovate, create, succeed, STEM as your career superpower. Now, Jamaica does not want to be left behind. And all the countries that are doing well in education, they have already adopted STEM in their program. When we look at countries like China and India, Singapore, and others, we realize that we need to step up to the plate. I therefore implore you at this time to sit back and relax and allow Mr. Brown to take you on a journey to STEM as your superpower. Thank you.
I'd like to invite Mrs. Mercedes Dean, the registrar, to bring greetings. Is she here?
Chancellor, President Pinnock, President of the University of Technology, Jamaica, Dr. Brown, members of faculty, members of the Mico Old Students Association, MOSA, the host of this event, Chancellor's, President's mom, good evening. Students, it is a wonderful time to be here to bring greetings on behalf of the Office of the Registrar and thereby extension, the University College. It's also heartwarming to see so many students. I hope you're not just hunting for the $10,000, but you're here to expand your brain about the STEM culture, which we are seeking to explore this evening. But STEM, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a mathematician, neither am I a Mico past student. In fact, I come from the great Shortwood College, Teachers College. But nonetheless, we are all educators. STEM in today's education world is a necessity. It's an imperative. It is not something to be scoffed at or overlooked. And the changing it will always keep you on your feet. As persons in the classroom, you will have to be on the cutting edge of everything. And when you leave here, the knowledge you have gained might have changed by the time you graduate. So it is not going to equip you for all life. So lifelong learning is imperative for your success. And some of you might not even be thinking of staying in Jamaica. But I implore you to stay, because the skills you have honed here will certainly put you in good stead. You might be the future lecturer, bringing a lecture here like Dr. Brown. But I want to say to you, as a student-centered person, student is the heart of my work. And I really want to say that although policies and governance issues are important, it's our students that is our investment, who are our investments. And so everything we do, everything we say, from the moment you apply to the moment of your graduation and beyond, it's about you. And so I want to thank you all for coming this evening. The Registry and the University College stands ready to support any venture that will make us a better person, a better teacher, better educator, and by extension, making this college a forerunner in teacher education. So I welcome you here and thank you that at the end of it, we will say it was good for us to be here. Thank you.
Are we all educators in here? Do we have any persons who may not be an educator? Is that an amen? So we all know what STEM means. The good teacher in me would want to know that we all know what we're talking about. We all know what STEM is, right? Because we're all educators. Right. So what it is, honestly, I'm not in STEM or STEAM or anything like that. What is STEM? You tell me you know. Yes, what is STEM? Okay, say it like you with conviction, no, man. Okay, and we have any engineering students in here? Any math student? And you know we have a problem with math in Jamaica. Yes, we need to solve it quickly. And I think I fall in that category. And where are the science students? Okay, so we have a good mix. And did you leave anyone on the hall? I would say go and rouse up some persons, let them pack the seat, because we are going to have an exciting lecture here this afternoon. I hope you realize that your president said that STEM is a culture. So if it is a culture, it's a way of life. That's how we think. Half of the problem with us is that we can't problem solve. Miss, I was late because there was no water on the hall. Hey, what about catching water in a pan? Simple little things like that. And you may take it as a joke. We cannot succeed. And I'm not a scientist. I'm in the humanities. However, no, well, I'm sort of in science. I actually did geography. However, in order for us to succeed, especially where we're going in this world, everything is smart this, smart that. We can't allow them to be smarter than we are. So we have to be able to think critically and think creatively. And I think that is what is dampening our success in schools, in colleges, and in our country. All right? So please go and get your friends, call them, text them, and tell them that they need to come and hear what Dr. Kevin Brown has to say, because I think it will only help their practice as they go out to teach and mold the young minds that are out there. Anyway, without further ado, I would like to invite the chairman again, Mr. Lawson, to give us an overview on the Glen Owen lecture.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, I stand before you to offer this evening's overview of the annual Glen Owen Lecture, a cherished tradition that commemorated the origin, a cherished tradition that commemorates the extraordinary legacy of Glenville Hamilton Owen, former principal of the Mico University College. As we gather during Mico Week 189, a momentous occasion that celebrates nearly 2 centuries of unwavering commitment to teacher training and nation building, we are reminded of what the Mico represents: leadership, integrity, service to others, and excellence. These are not mere values etched into documents or displayed on banners. They're embodied in the lives of those who have served this noble institution with distinction. None more so than Mr. Glenville Hamilton Owen. Mr. Owen assumed the principalship of the Mico College in 1959, bringing with him a transformative vision rooted in academic excellence and professional development. He firmly believed that individuals of intelligence, courage, and leadership should be at the forefront of teacher education, not just to fill classrooms, but to shape society. Under his tenure, the Mico expanded physically and intellectually, introducing rigorous programs and building a faculty committed to educational advancement. But Mr. Owen's contribution extended beyond these walls. As a community organizer and president of the Jamaica Teachers Association, he led the nation's first Jamaica National Conference on Education, cementing his place in Jamaica's educational history. His work was grounded in the same pillars we celebrate today: service to others, integrity in public life, and excellence in leadership. It is for these reasons that in 1984, the Mico Old Students Association initiated the Glen Owen Lecture Series, a forum where distinguished voices explore pressing issues in education and national development. Each lecture serves as a tribute to Owen's passion for community engagement and teacher empowerment, encouraging us to keep pushing the boundaries and the boundaries of possibilities. Tonight, in the spirit of Mico Week 189, and in honor of the enduring legacy, we reaffirm our commitment to the ideals that Mr. Owen so faithfully championed. May the conversation that unfolds this evening enrich our understanding, renew our sense of purpose, and inspire us all to serve with wisdom and compassion. Thank you for joining us in this meaningful tradition as we continue to honor Glenville Hamilton Owen, a true son of the Mico, and an exemplar of what we strive to be. May we listen deeply, reflect critically, and engage meaningfully. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thanks very much, Mr. Lawson. That was food for thought. I'm going to invite Mr. Richard Forrester, VP Guild of Students, and Chad Norris, Chairman of the Glen Owen Hall, to come and give their report.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Please allow me to accept all the protocols that have already been accepted. So my name is Richard Forrester, and beside me is Mr. Norris. We're just having a few technical difficulties. We'll be right up as we speak on the topic of technology. How are we doing this evening? All good? What a momentous evening to be a member of the Glen Owen Hall and to be here to present this evening. The best hall at the Mico. As we all know, it's called the Gaza. Right. Oh, and as you would have heard, I am the Vice President, and by myself right here is Mr. Norris, the Hall Chairman, and we work closely together. Mr. Norris reports to me on the Guild of Students, and I must say, when you have leaders such as Mr. Norris, who grooms the men on the hall, is something that I look up to, because I was once groomed by, I won't call his name, because I won't give him the credit. He might be on live, you know. But it's something that I look up to, and for us to stand here today, it's not all about the accolades that comes with it. It's about just being appreciative of the efforts. And technology is back up and running, so we'll start. All right. So we're called today to present an overview of the Glen Owen Hall, the best hall, for the academic year 2024-2025.
All right. So for this academic year, the hall was led by the hall chair, Mr. Chad Norris, and the assistant hall chair, Mr. Ramon Atlan. All right, so to ensure smooth sailing of the initiatives that goes on the hall and the benefits of the men on the hall, we would have established different committees. There are the Lounge and Entertainment Committee, the Welfare Committee, Garden and Maintenance Committee, Clean and Sanitization Committee, and Shop Committee. So the Lounge and Entertainment Committee would have hosted a games night last semester to foster camaraderie among the halls. So this would have been between the Glen Owen Hall, the John James Mills Hall, and the Errol Miller Hall. We would have been blessed and would have appreciated where, as you can see in the image, myself and the head of the Lounge and Entertainment Committee, Mr. Josh Brown, would have been gifted a refurbishment, a facelift of the lounge from the Human Ecology Department. Was a group of ladies, and we truly appreciate it. We can see where the Welfare Committee would have done a breakfast initiative to basically bring the men together. We did stuff from the garden, and we cooked a little pot, some porridge, pop chow, saltfish, stuff like that, and we enjoyed ourselves.
Now, on the note of welfare, you can just go back one. On the note of welfare, we would have all had something that, let's say it's the first of its kind, where as the vice president, you're basically in charge of welfare, and in collaboration with the Glen Owen Hall, we had what we call a hall giveaway. So we had basic food amenities, toiletries, and we basically gave it to the members of the Glen Owen Hall, which basically proved sufficient for the gentlemen on the hall.
All right, so the Garden and Maintenance Committee would have went ahead and planted crops such as scallion, pop chow, pumpkin, and even carlo. And we would have had members from the Geography and Environmental Science department went to a competition and they won a grapevine for the hall. The Garden and Maintenance Committee would have done work to do a small expansion to the garden. As we can see there, the members, they went for the wheelbarrows from Mr. Hemmings, and we did our work and expand the garden so that it could be fruitful and beneficial to us. And we can continue to see here where we would have gathered the dirt, and Mr. Atlan would have found a worm, and he was showing us and informing us from a geography perspective. The Glen Owen Hall would have collaborated with Recycling Partners of Jamaica, RPJ, and we would have started a recycling initiative to basically promote environmental sustainability on the hall. So the men recycle their bottles, and there are 2 designated recycling bins on the hall.
All right, so now on to the matter of security. I don't know how much of us frequent the football field at the West Lawn, and you will realize that normally there's an opening from the hall to the field. Now, we were blessed with a new gate to basically promote security, to ward off any unwelcomed guests, and we are very appreciative of those efforts. And even if you look, it's not in the frame, but if you were to visit the hall, you'd also realize that the wall is now fenced up so that no one can actually come over the wall onto the campus. Now, when we talk about at this time of year, it speaks about the heat. And so we were blessed with a water dispenser from the administration. And I will ask you to give them a round of applause. On the basis that this was something that we've asked for quite a time, but they continued to encourage us to be patient, and they kept their word. And I'm sure the members of Room A are very appreciative of the water dispenser, because they're always the first to empty it. So we're greatly appreciative of the water dispenser being added to the hall. I'll give you that one.
All right, so the shop committee would have established a shop on the Glen Owen Hall right near the security post where the kitchen is. And this was basically established to curb the men hunger. So when, right, as Mr. Forrester said, late night cravings. So we know that the campus closes off, and it's not really too safe to go on to Crossroads and get food. So this would just suffice for them, and to ensure that they have something to eat until they can go in the morning and get something substantial.
All right, sweet. So in all things good, there's always room for improvement, and even when you have it all, there's always things that you want more, and I know the gentlemen will love this part. Now, some of the things that we're saying we actually need, we speak to increased network bandwidth, and I love the topic of tonight, it's technology. So, I don't know if we'll get a bit of some knowledge as to how we can plead our case to get some better internet connectivity on the hall. We're also looking to get an additional refrigerator to facilitate everyone. Because, sometimes, looking the fridge space is so filled because we have men from room A who have like 3 chickens, coming from the countryside. And we know those chickens are big. And we're also looking to have an additional stove, a washing machine, and wall fans for the lounge to facilitate our guests when they come in the space.
Our plans for the future would be further expansion of the Glen garden with space and indeed more crops to benefit, and to also continue to seek external sponsorship for the Glen Hall Welfare Committee to more initiatives and benefit the men in need. And that would conclude our presentation. Thank you.
Now, we're going to end there, but I think it would be abrupt, and I don't think he's expecting this. I must give a round of applause to Sir Holt, our Chief Resident Advisor, the man behind it all. So, commendations to you, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen. And you see the innovation coming in, and I hope that, and I'm talking it into being, that we'll see further technology when they use the waste to create their energy and all of that. We are stemming into new innovations. So, gentlemen, there are so many things you can do. And the chicken farmer here is coming so that you can buy the deep freeze so that room A can put not 3 chickens but 6. All right? So have the chicken farm and you can sell it to the president. He will buy some of the chickens from you. All right? But I'm glad to see that a farm is on and that you're looking to expand. We're going to shift a bit and we're going to get some good entertainment. So I'm going to invite Miss Renee Matthew Moore to come and entertain us.
Good evening, everyone. And my name is Renee Matthew Moore from the Department of Language, Literacy, and Literature, and I'll be doing a poem for you entitled Speaking in Tongues by Kai Miller. This poem begins in 1987. My grandmother dragged us to meet the Lord under a tent in St. Catherine. From here, I trace the heritage of standing spellbound as women worship, always among the outskirts. I remember my grandmother, unbecoming the kind of woman who sets her table each Sunday, who walks up from the river, water balanced easily on her head. My grandmother instead became all earthquake, tilt and turn and spin. Her orchid purple skirt blossoming. She became all grunt and rumble, sounds you can only make when your shoe are falling off and you're on the ground crying, Rabban, Yashanda, Rabosin, ba 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 ba. Years later, a friend tells me, tongues, it's nothing but gibberish. The deluded pulling words out of dust. I want to ask him, what is language but a sound we christen? I would invite him to a tent where women are tearing their stocking and are on the ground putting up fresh words to offer like doves to Jehovah. I want to ask him if he sees no meaning here and if he never had the urge to grunt an entirely new sound. The poem would always want to do this, always want to break from its line and allow a strange language to rise up. Each poem is waiting on its own day of Pentecost to throw someone walk past, afraid of the words we try out on our tongues, hoping this might finally be the language of God, that he might hear it and respond. Thank you.
Clap our man, the signs of talking in tongue was good. So I want to ask Miss Melrose Foster to introduce our presenter, Miss Foster. After which, you'll hear the voice of Dr. Brown.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is my distinct honor to introduce the keynote speaker for this evening's lecture. He is a visionary leader, accomplished academic, and a trailblazer in the global aerospace industry and president of the University of Technology, Jamaica. He was appointed as the 5th president of UTech, Jamaica, on September 11, 2023. He's a proud alumnus of the institution, where he completed a diploma with honors in mechanical engineering, specializing in production. As a student, he also served as president of the Students' Union, a sign of his leadership potential from early on. With over 18 years of experience at the intersection of academia and industry, he is widely respected for his expertise in complex aerospace structural systems, transport systems, and computational analysis. Before returning to UTech, he served as technology project lead for civil aerospace technology and future programs at Rolls-Royce, where he played a pivotal role in developing the cutting-edge ultrafan engine, an innovation that points to the future of aviation. He is also a published researcher with 22 peer-reviewed journal articles and conference papers to his name. And he successfully led several high-value, multi-million-pound research projects. He has taught and supervised students at undergraduate, postgraduate, and doctoral levels, and consulted for major firms locally and internationally. Beyond his technical and academic achievements, he is deeply committed to public service. Over the past 2 decades, he has worked with government agencies, private sector partners, and NGOs, and has established a number of community initiatives. He's also the longtime host of the Talkback Show on 97.5, and I'm not certain if it's KEMET FM, and has made appearances as a commentator on BBC Radio. He holds a master's and doctoral degree in mechanical engineering from the University of Nottingham, made possible through a prestigious scholarship from the Ford Motor Company. He's also an inventor, a patent holder in the United States and the United Kingdom, and a co-founder of a telecommunications startup. In recognition of his service and leadership, he has received numerous awards, including the Rolls-Royce Recognition Award and the Sons of the Father Men's Movement Award for his contributions to the Jamaican diaspora. He's also a certified coach in both football and cricket, proving that his leadership extends to the field of sports as well. As president of the University of Technology, he serves as the university's chief academic and administrative officer, reporting directly to the council through the chancellor. His role is focused on implementing policy, driving innovation, and fostering a culture of excellence across the institution. In his own words, he has affirmed, "I am committed to working closely with the entire university community and key stakeholders to ensure that UTech Jamaica becomes a beacon of excellence, empowering our graduates to make significant contributions to the nation and beyond." Please join me in welcoming to the podium Dr. Kevin Brown.
Thank you very much. It must be a Miconian thing. I notice everyone who comes to the mic speaks with great prowess and poetry and rhythm. So I'm mightily impressed. Thank you so much for that introduction. I think it started with the chairman of the event, Mr. Owen Lawson, but I see it's a trend at Mico. So as an engineer, I think I'll have to come back here from time to time to learn this poetic way of speaking. But good evening, everyone. I'm hoping to have an interactive conversation with you, right? I saw the trend by our Master of Ceremonies at the start where I felt we were in class, so I think I might continue the same approach in terms of engaging with you. So I hope you will participate as well. Let me just thank the Mico and their alumni for this invitation. I feel so honored to be here, especially when I hear things like 189 years. Is that right, Dr. Pinnock? 189, wow. That is some history and some pedigree, and I can see why there is a lot of pride in this room. I can feel it, to be a Miconian. So I missed out? Okay. All right, I might come back in a second life and decide I want to be educated here. So congratulations on your anniversary. That's no mean feat, right, to sustain yourself. Even when I was at the UTech, we all had great respect for Mico as a teaching institution, and you have maintained that reputation and continue to grow under President Pinnock. My good friend, we're from the West, a Montagonian, so, and someone like myself who is passionate about STEM. Let me also acknowledge your Chancellor and other members of the Board of Directors. We have loaned you Mrs. Mercedes Dean, Registrar. Good to see you. As you know, she was a registrar at UTech for many years. Let me also acknowledge my mother, who I notice is becoming a popular figure these days. I thought I'd bring her along with me today, so a bit of moral support from her. And I see Claudette as well, who is an alumni of Mico and UTech, and we wrestle sometimes over which institution she prefers. I think Mico is winning at the moment, so I'm giving up on that one, Claudette. I think Mico seems to be resolute there. And I know there are some members of the audience who are online as well, so good evening to them as well. So I really want to thank you again. The honor of presenting at this annual Glen Owen Distinguished Lecture is not lost on me because of one primary thing. Honorable Glenville Owen was the first Miconian to become principal of Mico, and I too now share that mark of history at UTech as the first alum, the first past student to be president. It's taken us only 67 years to achieve that, but we got there. So I really feel that connection with Honorable Glenville Owen and the reverence that Miconians have for this man. I can only dream of achieving that when my time ends at UTech, considering how long ago he served, and just to listen now, today, 2025, how much respect is paid to this gentleman. It's quite awesome. So that really has made this lecture really special for me. Point. All right, I'm going to keep going. So, your chosen theme, innovate, create, succeed, STEM as your career superpower, immediately caught my attention when I saw that. If STEM was a superhero, it would undoubtedly be the ultimate force for transformation, with the potential to equip individuals with the tools to change lives and to shape the future. And that has been my story. And so in the lecture tonight, I want to talk about my own STEM journey. And then I want to talk about STEM as an opportunity for Jamaica as it relates to our economy. You'll hear, and you'll hear for the next few months, politicians talk about growth. My firm belief is that you cannot achieve growth without a highly educated STEM workforce. That is the future, and the future is now. So we really have to work real hard in Jamaica to ensure that we're producing more STEM graduates, more STEM teachers. Now, the term STEM, according to the internet, came from the National Science Foundation, used to be called SMET. Not sure most of you'd like that, so I think it was wise of them to change it to STEM, right? Not rather than SMET. But there are other variants, right? Like STEAM or STREAM. If you add in the arts, it becomes STEAM. If you add in reading, it becomes STREAM. I'm firmly STEM. Yes, I have great appreciation for the arts, but maybe because at UTech we're pretty clear on our mission and vision, we are STEM. We're not a liberal arts university. But certainly, the government of Jamaica has decided to shift to STEAM as their theme, because they're recognizing that Jamaica's culture has a pivotal role to play in now and in the future. It has been a marker in terms of the recognition that we receive internationally, and so they've decided that yes, the arts should anchor our future, and so it's STEAM. Yes, I can see all the arts people here cheering on, but I'm a big fan of the arts, but I do have a pretty focused approach in terms of STEM. And to be honest, the arts is foundational anyway, because if you think about it as an engineer, it's your creative side that comes out when you need to design something, right? The engineering backs up the arts with the maths, right? So once but the aesthetics, for example, of your iPhone. And for those of you who are really, into Apple, you'd have heard about the obsession they had with the design of all things Apple, whether it's the phone or the Macintosh. So it wasn't just the engineering, but also the design. So the arts are still there. I want to reassure you, I have an appreciation for the arts. And countries that have anchored themselves on STEM have been very successful. There are several countries that have invested heavily in STEM education and STEM infrastructure and have substantially improved their GDP. And again, you listen to the government and they keep talking about GDP and growth, global competitiveness. So when you think about countries like South Korea, for example, South Korea coming out of the grips of war in the 1950s and leading as a technology powerhouse today, Kia, Hyundai, Samsung. And then when you think of Japan, again coming out of World War II, I'm old enough to have owned a Walkman. I don't know if anyone in here knows what a Walkman is. Oh, I see it. JTA President, good to see you, sir. Saying I had a Walkman as well. Claudia didn't see your hand go up in the high. Huh? I'm old enough to say I own one. And I can see all the young people like, huh? Right, okay, right. And then, so Japan was known for electronics. The Walkman, Sony. Sony has come a long way. Most of you as young people probably know Sony as making big movies, but they were huge in terms of electronics, not just PlayStation. And then there was a company called Panasonic. Remember that one? Right, and so if you wanted a VHS recorder, see, I lost the young people straight away now. If you wanted a VHS recorder, you always want a Panasonic recorder, right? Oh boy, because there are streamers now, right? But a VHS was where you would watch movies, and it was a big cassette like this, and you'd put it inside your VHS and watch your movies. And you know, karate movies were quite popular back then when I was a boy. See, there's a whole generational divide, you know, because the young people are quiet. They're like but it shows you that when you talk about STEM, it's just the latest buzzword. Because from the beginning of mankind, we've been doing STEM, right? From the invention of the wheel to the Great Pyramids in Egypt, we have been doing STEM. And so this is just the latest acronym. But humankind has been built on the backs of STEM and how fast we've been able to move in that area. Some countries have been better at it than others. Jamaica arguably consumes STEM a lot more than we produce, and that is the challenge for us, right? So even China has pivoted and has become a technology powerhouse. And so maybe there are lessons there for Jamaica in terms of what we need to do, or may I say even by extension, the continent of Africa. So STEM as a superpower for your career. I want to start there because I see lots of young teachers, and I do hope you stay in education because Jamaica needs you desperately to stay in the profession. But you may be aware, again, I don't know if I've lost the young people, but there's a gentleman called Douglas Owen, former chairman and CEO. You guys know? Good. Woolmerian? Oh boy, I'm not having the high school wars here. No. No. Save that for the JTA, not me. I'm not going there. But yes, he's a Woolmerian, coincidentally. I am not. But for all his achievements, he made this one statement that I've written there. STEM did give me everything. STEM did give me everything. Douglas Owen was trained as an engineer. He did a degree in mechanical engineering at Glasgow University, but went on to be one of Jamaica's foremost industrialists, achieved great things at Grace Kennedy, and is still very active even now in retirement. I don't know, should I even say retirement? Did Douglas never retire, did he? But he, and I'm sure you may invite him to be a future lecturer here, achieved great things through his STEM education, and he proudly wrote about it in a book recently where he said STEM did give me everything. There are others, just bringing it up to today's latest announcements. So you may know that JPS has a new president, and I know most of us don't have friendly relationships with JPS, but the new president is a UTech alumni, and again, using STEM, using engineering, it has propelled him to greatness. So he started out with doing a diploma at UTech, and then went overseas, made a career for himself in the light and power industry, and now he's back as the president of JPS. And then most recently, Major General Anthony Anderson, again another distinguished UTech alum, was announced as the new ambassador for the United States of America and permanent representative designate to the Organization of American States. But his foundations are in engineering. He has a diploma in electrical engineering from UTech, and his bachelor's degree is also in mechanical engineering. Now, of course, I'm exhibiting a clear bias, right? I'm an engineer, but of course, there's only one E in STEM, right? So there are many other examples of scientists and mathematicians and so on, Jamaicans who have excelled, right? So excuse me for my bias, right? But the point I'm making is that these are men in society that you all know, especially Major General, who's the former police commissioner, whose foundations are based on STEM. In their case, it's engineering, but there are many others who have done well as scientists and so on, right? So in terms of STEM as a superpower, these men certainly have used it to excel. And you'll notice they lead a certain way. Take, for example, Major General Anthony Anderson, when he took on the police force, transformed the police and focused a lot on using technology and upgrading the technological capability of the force, right? And that's even going to get more significant with the new police commissioner, Dr. Kevin Blake, who's really a computer scientist, to be honest, right? If you know him very well. And yes, absolutely. So again, the police force has another STEM leader right there. So if I touch on how STEM influenced my life, it certainly has been significant. All I have achieved has been through a STEM education. So when you talk about STEM being a superpower, for me it was transformative. How does a poor young man from rural Jamaica become a leader at an aerospace company such as Rolls-Royce? How does that happen? How is that even possible? And it starts with me having a passion for all things engineering. And my mom will tell you that initially they were not in agreement with my choice to become an engineer. You know, like any other parent, you know, they say, why not doctor, why not right, the typical. And yes, my mom was stereotypical in that sense that, yes, she was suggesting, why not try medicine or law or something else. But because my mom couldn't quite conceptualize where STEM was going to take me, right? She couldn't quite get it. So at that time, and I'm sure she's fascinated by what has happened in my life, but at that time she was like, engineering, okay. So the family didn't quite buy into it, but I was quite passionate about it. In fact, as a child, as a 7-year-old, 8-year-old in Grangeville. Anybody know Grangeville, Westmoreland? Oh, what? Okay. Oh, that's good. Great. So lots of greatness comes from the West, yes? Amen. All right. So rural Grangeville, I lived on Bellide Road. I don't know how well you know Grangeville. Right, I lived on Bellide Road. And so Grangeville Primary School is in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by cane fields, literally, middle of nowhere. And we would walk to school, right? Some of you may have been, I don't know what that is like, but we walked to school many miles back and forth. Took it as nothing at the time, you know, and on the way to school, if I saw a nut or a bolt on the street, I'd pick it up and put it in my bag. If I saw a piece of metal on the street, I'd put it in my bag. So at one point, my mom lifted my bag and shaked it, and it was just full of junk. But I was just fascinated by anything that looked like a piece of machinery or anything of that sort. So my obsession was pretty strong. She could not keep any appliances in her house. I would tear them open with a screwdriver. So I went into the fan, I went into the radio, I went into the stereo, destroyed her stereo that she had for many, many years. And I must thank her, and I thank her all the time for her patience, because she never once stopped me. I never had any beatings for it. Somehow, somehow, well, she's there now. Somehow she just allowed me to explore, right? And you know, I'd go into the radio. I don't know if there are any industrial technology students here, but I'd go into the radio, and the radios have these little motors, and you take them out and make fans from. You did that? Oh, well, on JTA president? Yes? Okay. All right. So, and we used to do those things, right? My son, I'm sure, cannot relate to anything I've just said. So my passion for engineering was very clear. And so when I did Common Entrance, which is now morphed into PEP, and I passed some Mannings, but then we moved to Lucy and then Montego Bay So we needed to find a new high school. Now, Mannings is a decent high school, right? So I felt I was missing out there. But my mom then started to try and find a high school for me. So we went to Russie's, and Russie said, no vacancy. We went to Cornwall College, and they said, no vacancy. We went to Herbert Morrison Technical High School. They had a big sign outside saying, no vacancy. But we walked in anyway. And Mr. Winstanley, who was a principal at the time, oh, okay, yes, the late Boss, yes, he was called Boss. Are there any principals in Jamaica called Boss? He was unique in that sense, the Boss. And he embraced it, by the way. So Mr. Winstanley, the late Mr. Winstanley was a principal. We walked in, pleaded our case, and he accepted me. But it turns out what happened was that he was trying to convert Herbert Morrison into an all-boys school. So for that grade 7 year, it was only boys. So I think that's why I got in. So there I was at Herbert Morrison Technical High School, a school known for football, not academics, football. It was a D-cup school. I think I've lost the students again. Wow. You know, we should turn this into a history lecture now. Oh, boy. So what's the name of the Easter football competition now? What's it called? Dacosta Cup? Oh, okay. Right. Dacosta Cup, right. So it was, right, so we were known for Dacosta Cup. We were very strong at it. So no longer was I headed for Mannings, which had a little bit of prestige and known for academic excellence. I was at Compre. All right, I was at Compre, which was Herbert Morrison Technical High School, but I tell you, it was a blessing in disguise. Because being a technical high school, it was where I should have been, and that's where I was. Because by grade 10, I was streamed off into engineering, right? And so I found myself now doing mechanical technology, electrical technology, technical drawing, physics, maths. And so I want to say as my first point of notation here, as it relates to our national policy, we need to preserve our technical high schools, right? And the JTA is here, so I'm making sure I get out all my points, you know, so he can go and lobby for it. Because while I welcome these 6 STEM schools or STEAM schools that the government has committed itself to construct, the technical high schools have been doing the work all these years. And all these years, they have been underfunded. The same, when I went to Herbert Morrison recently, the same machines, the same, for the industrial technology students, you'll know the lathes, the milling machines. It's the same ones I left. And you know how long ago I must have finished high school, right? It's the same machines that are there in disrepair. So I was very happy. I was very happy when the new Minister for Education announced that she is going to take a bit of money from Heart and invest in upgrading the technical high schools. It is the right thing to do, and I hope it happens very soon. But the upgrade must not stop there in terms of just replacing and updating lathe machines and milling machines. They must now be given 3D printers. They must now be given state-of-the-art computer labs. They must now be given robotics labs. We cannot wait for 6 STEM or STEAM schools. All schools have to be upgraded. And I want to be fair to the government, and the JTA is here. There is my good friend Andrew Lee, who's running e-learning, is doing a good job in trying to fit out schools with technology. You may have heard that they've purchased a significant amount of smart boards that will be distributed across all the schools in short order, and they have been giving out laptops and so on. But of course, we need to train the teachers and give them confidence on these tools. So I am someone who's very passionate about technical high schools because it worked out for me, but it was never a straight path. I found myself in grade 10 and 11 without a physics teacher. And to get into UTech at the time, you needed physics. I found myself in a class in grade 10 and 11 where the principal struggled to find a maths teacher. So we were now with a very young, inexperienced math teacher who tried his best, but it was difficult. So the principal decided to innovate, and he employed an engineer. There's a Shell outlet in Montego Bay next to the school, and he employed an engineer to teach us physics on the weekend. So I found myself going to school on a Saturday to learn physics. And I must say this, that in the process of trying to learn physics, my aunt, Cherry Dehaney, former vice principal of Bethel Junior High, gave me a physics textbook. And I guess I was a bookworm at the time. So I don't know if it's cool to be a geek anymore, but I was pretty bookish then. So I took the textbook because I realized that going to school on a Saturday alone was not going to work out. And I studied the book, independent study, so to speak. And it turned out I was the only one who passed physics in the school. We did GCSE O-level physics, and I'm the only one who passed. And I got a C. So, I literally passed. And everybody else got U's. So it was a difficult thing because, and I feel a bit torn in saying that because it meant that all my friends did not pass because we did not have a physics teacher. So I'm looking at you, future teachers, and I'm saying to you that the role you are about to play when you leave this institution is pivotal. Pivotal. Because it is only by chance that I passed physics and I could get into UTech. All my friends had to wait. Most of them had to delay their entry into UTech, and they went to the community college next door to pass physics to then go on to UTech. So when you don't have teachers, the education system just does not work, right? So, having passed physics now, the next challenge, and by the way, these challenges are still current, right? JTA President, shortage of STEM teachers. The next challenge was no money. Because my mom is a single parent mom. I found my father when I was 30 years old. When I reached already and, But nonetheless, we are good friends now. So, and my mom was really poorly paid. So when I told her I wanted to go to UTech, she's like, well, if you can get a scholarship, try. So what happened was that because I'd done so well in my CXCs and GCSE O-levels, especially in technical drawing and so on, the principal said, you know what, come back and be a pre-trained teacher. They still have those? Okay, so I was a pre-trained teacher for 1 year. And I must say, I have such a respect for teachers having done that 1 year because, wow, it was tough. Now imagine, I'm a teacher at age 15. Some of my students were my age because company would take you in at all age. So because of the all age system, you'd have older kids coming into these high schools. So some of my students were my age. And it was challenging. I was teaching technical drawing and mechanical technology. And I did that for 1 year. And then I went and worked for the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. And the pay was so bad that my mom used to send me to work before, by the end, as the month end approached, the pay would just dissipate, and she was giving me money to go to work. So I said to her, you know what, this is not going to work, and I feel like my brain is, I'm losing the will here. So we took a student loan, and I started UTech. And then subsequent to that, I got a scholarship, the Technical High School Scholarship. And I think that's the last time I paid for my education because right up until PhD, I just got scholarships. And so it won't surprise you if I say that I believe that education should be free. But But I'm a realist. And my position is that if it can't be free, then it should be affordable. Affordable, right? Because there are certain intangibles that government cannot pay for. A highly educated society is something that is intangible. You can't put a value on it because the return on investment is there in terms of the growth potential of the country. Look at all the countries that are ahead, and it's because of that highly educated workforce. And by the way, some of these countries cheat because if they can't get the homegrown educational talent, they import it. I was in the UK for too long, right? 23 years. They had my brain power there, right? So they use immigration as well as to short circuit and to have that highly educated workforce. Now, you can't read the screen. I realize it's too small, but when I went to the United Kingdom, having gone through UTech, and by the way, UTech, I must say, holds a special place in my heart because I left my mom. I was very sheltered at home, and I was thrown into the deep end. Can't tell mom everything I got up to at UTech, but it was a rites of passage. So I discovered I discovered myself. I discovered girls' mom. Sorry, I discovered that I had the potential to lead. Within my second year at UTech, I was involved in a few student unrest activities. I realized I had a strong heart for social injustice, and whenever I saw something was unjust, somehow there was a natural urge in me to get involved. So next thing I know, I was swept into student union and became the president of the students union and so on. So I went into UTech as Saul and came out as Paul. That's really what happened. Transformed, right? So I got the diploma I got was just on the side. The character development is really what I got. That's really what I got. And so I got this scholarship and I went to the United Kingdom and I did a master's and a PhD. And all the time I was thinking I was going to come back to Jamaica. But then when I finished my PhD, my supervisor said, well, I have a little job here for you. Why not get some work experience? And I said, okay, let's get a bit of work experience. And so I stayed on at the University of Nottingham, and I stayed there, and I stayed in academia. And I was doing some really interesting work, and I don't know if any of you will go into research, but I encourage you to do so because I really have a passion for it. And I was looking at materials, and I'll try not to get too technical, but all I was trying to do was to understand what happens when you break something, right? So if I was to snap this clicker, which is made from plastic, what are the mechanisms that would cause it to fail? And so I was getting quite scientific in the process. But where I was going, which is really, really hard, is what happens if I was to really smash it. And so the impact loading was going to be pretty instant and high impact. If I was to smash it and it broke, what really happens? Turns out some materials behave differently. The harder you hit them, they change. They become stiffer. They become stronger. So, I became fascinated with that, and I wrote an entire PhD thesis on materials becoming stiffer and stronger the harder you hit them. And so, spent many days in the lab trying to understand why these materials became stiffer and stronger, and trying to quantify how much stronger they would get the harder you hit them, right? So if you think of things like when a car crashes, the metal straightens up. It's almost like, if you know someone's about to hit you, do you feel your body kind of? Right. Well, yes. Some materials do that. Well, you tense up before you get hit, but the material tense up on impact. So once you start to hit it hard, it actually starts to, because of course, the molecular structure starts to adjust to that hitting, right? And with polymers, the viscosity inside causes different behaviors. So I spent the whole time doing research on that fascinating area of research. Now, you might be saying, well, what's the application? So the application was for pedestrian safety. We're saying, okay, if we could find a material that absorbs lots of energy, where's my industrial technology guys now? So if you have force and you have displacement, you got energy, right? And so we were trying to say, okay, if we could discover a material that could absorb lots of energy by understanding how it behaves when you smash it, because we were, when you crash into a pedestrian, you crash into a pedestrian, right? It's not slow motion. So we wanted to understand how those mechanisms work so that we could build a bumper that when someone crashes into you as a pedestrian, you would get a soft landing, right? That was the application, but the science behind it is what my PhD is about. And so I did that for a number of years, and then I went into the aerospace industry, doing somewhat the same thing, and I'll explain. So I spent a decade at Rolls-Royce, focusing initially on structural systems design. So I went there looking at designing the engine, especially the structure, for extreme events. And every time I tell people what I used to do at Rolls-Royce, I say, I hope I haven't scared them from flying. But flying remains one of the safest forms of transportation. In terms of how a jet engine works, it's very, very simple. This one is a high-pressure turbine fan. There are many formations, but this is the most popular one you'll find on an aircraft. It sucks those big fans, which are the only part of the engine you see, by the way. The rest of the engine is covered up, right? And you might see some of the engine that's covered up behind me there in that picture. But normally it's covered up, and you only see the fans. So the fans suck the air in, and then the air is forced into the core. And behind the fan, there's a core section. Now, does anyone know what part of the engine drives the fan? Is it the front or the back? If you think it's the front, put your hand up. All right. If you think it's the back, put your hand up. Right. So we're going to the back? Right. Okay, so let's stick with the back. It is the back. So at the back, you have something called a turbine. So the turbine drives the front of the fan. But most people think it's at the front, but no, the turbine, and so you notice the air color is orange. It's red hot around there. 1,000 degrees Celsius. Now, this is where I don't want to scare you, but it's okay. So the back of the engine is operating about 1,000 degrees Celsius. That's enough for everything around there to melt. So from your takeoff, it should all melt, right? But there is a sophisticated air cooling system that is built into every component at the back. So when you turn the engine on, it starts to blow air through all these components to protect it from the heat. So you have a combustor there, warms up the heat. Where's my physics students? When you warm up heat, when it warm air, what happens? It was what? Expands, right? Yeah. Oh, Mico students. I'm impressed. I'm impressed, Dr. Pinnock. It expands. It expands, and so you get a lot of. That is what forces the engine forward and causes rotation. A lot of energy and whatever happening there. I'm not going to go into the technicalities of it, but essentially, it drives the front end, those big fans. But what I want to talk to you about is what I used to work on, because the engine is very complex, and so different guys worked on different things. I worked on the structure of the engine. And so what was I trying to do? I was trying to design the engine for extreme events. Now, these engines have big inlets, right? That inlet that you see on the engine, you can stand in it, right? And you'll probably be about halfway up, so it's huge. And you can't put something in front of it like a mesh, because that would disrupt the airflow. So you have to leave it open. And what does it mean? It means that anything could fly inside there, right? And birds do occasionally fly inside there. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, how could a little tiny bird affect a plane engine? So let me see the physics students now. Kinetic energy. What's the equation for kinetic energy? Half mv squared. So power law, right? So even if it's a tiny little clicker, if the engine is moving very fast, remember the v squared is a power law, it's going to do a bit of damage, right? So even though this thing weighs nothing, if I threw it into a jet engine, you'd be surprised what it could do, right? because of the kinetic energy. So my job was and my team, and most of us had to have PhDs because we were trying to develop computer models to design the engine to stop it from exploding. Because once you disrupt the rotational behavior of the engine, it wants to tear itself apart, literally. And you can see in the top video there that that's a test where they fired a bird into the engine. And you might think it looks horrible, but for us, that's a good outcome. And why is it a good outcome? The engine is still there. The engine is still there. It looks horrible, I know. But the engine is still there. I'm telling you, the structure of the engine is still there. So the bird they use a big gun, they shoot the bird in. It disrupts the rotational behavior of the engine. The engine starts to whirl and tries to tear itself apart. And our job, my team, was to design that engine so that all of that would happen, and you'd still get, look at the engine at the bottom left, that one that's still on the wing, that looks like it's on fire. You see that one on the wing? So the top one on the right is a test. The one on the bottom left is a real incident on an A380 where they lost the front end of the engine. It's still on fire, but look, the engine is still there. The body of the engine is still there. Because if that engine explodes, where are the parts going to go? To you. Do you know how thin the fuselage is that tube you walk into? It's very, very thin. Extremely thin. Because the airplane needs to be light. So if those things start to break off, then you're in trouble. So you can imagine how strong the engine needs to be, but at the same time how light, to take all those forces. Look at the top explosion that occurs, right? That's caused by a bird, by the way, just remember that. And still stay intact. So we were running big models on big computers, day and night, to solve this problem. Really exciting job, as scary as it looks. Because we knew that once you get it right, and you had to do a test at the end, the engine would be there, right? So for me, I had a good run in the aerospace industry in terms of being at the cutting edge of what we could do with computational tools and what we're doing with these very complex machines to keep you safe, right? Because most of you don't even think about birds when you fly. And the last thing I'll mention about Rolls-Royce is that when I was there, I was also involved in research on the future engines that we're trying to produce. So this is the ultrafan on the screen, right? And I spent many years working on this, the design of this engine. This engine doesn't even fly yet. It's still just being tested now. Just before I left Rolls-Royce, we had built it. But I spent most of my time trying to design it. And what was one of the big things we were trying to do is if you look at those fans, you'll notice that the fans have a, what's the color there? Is it aqua? Right, it's a plastic blade. Now, normally those blades are made from titanium, very strong metal, but I worked for many years trying to make these blades out of carbon fiber, right? So essentially it's carbon fiber with embedded in a plastic substrate. And what we're trying to do was to get a lighter blade, right? The bigger the engine is, and this is a huge engine, the higher the efficiency. And so to make these metal blades was going to be difficult. So we decided we need to move to what was called a composite blade. And it took us many years. So one of my legacies is that I worked on developing the design tool to allow us to put this on an engine, right? And we collaborated with universities. I was working with Oxford University. I was working with Bristol University for us to come up with the design tools for this blade. And so Rolls-Royce has spent close to 2 decades just trying to develop that one blade. So innovation is hard. And here's the thing, right? Why were we doing it? Because we had to, as a company, steer into the future. What's the future? What was the future? What is going to be the future of aerospace? And when we looked into the future, we saw a few things. One, we need to move away from metals. So the casing and the fans are made from carbon fiber. We've put a gearbox in that engine. It's the first engine of that size to have a gearbox so that the fan can move slower. And there are a multitude of other technologies that we've put in there. And in each case, we were working with universities. Now, wouldn't it be nice if that's the type of approach we had in Jamaica, where every engineering company, every industrial company, whether it's a cement company or any other major companies, was working hand in hand with our universities to solve their problems. Rose-Royce worked with Oxford University. I worked with Bristol. In fact, before I came back to Jamaica, I was flying to Germany every month because we were working with a German university to solve another problem. Don't be scared. But when you start up the plane, those blades, they shake, they vibrate, right? So as they rotate, they're doing this. It's called flutter. It's a parasitic problem, and so sometimes it stops you from running the engine really, really fast, right? And so the pilot has to know that when they approach certain speed to avoid the flutter parasitic behavior, because if it gets really bad, the blade can break off, right? So I was working with this German university to try and solve this flutter problem. So again, another nugget I think for Jamaica is that we must embed industry into the universities, because that's where the brain power is. If Rolls-Royce is going to a university, Rolls-Royce is going to a university, why aren't all the industries at UTech? Why aren't they at Mico? Why aren't they at UE? Some of them are there, but more of them need to come, because guess what they're doing? They're going overseas. They say, no, we have a problem, we need to get some overseas consultant. Why? When the brain power is here, and if they had invested in our universities, we could do the same thing that overseas consultant could do. We don't have a brain power problem in Jamaica. We have a lack of investment and trust in the brain power. So I'm going to pivot away now from my story. And I hope that for the young teachers here, because I know some of you won't stay in teaching. I mean, many teachers who become bankers and all the rest of it. Whatever you choose to do in the future, Mico is a STEM institution. The world is there's no limits. I was about to say the world is their oyster, but there are really no limits. You know, I was at Rolls-Royce. You can be anywhere. No limits. Just because of a STEM education. All I have are engineering degrees. That's all I have. And so I want you to believe in the strength of what you're doing. When the MC was asking where the mathematicians, I saw a few hands go up. We need you to stay as mathematicians, right? And believe me, you will achieve what you set out to achieve, right, from your STEM degrees. Now, how does this all work how does this work for Jamaica? The Prime Minister, and Dr. Pinnock was there, the Prime Minister came to UTech last year and declared Jamaica a STEM island. And what he was underscoring was the government's commitment to position Jamaica as a global leader in STEM, in a STEM-driven economy. But it's a vision. We're not there yet. So I want to talk about how do we get there. My argument is that we won't get there unless you have a STEM education ecosystem. And when I say, what I mean by ecosystem, meaning that if we're talking about STEM, it's not just about STEM in high schools or 6 STEAM schools. It's about STEM at every level of the education system. It's about STEM in early childhood. It's about STEM in high schools. It's about STEM in tertiary education. It has to be an ecosystem. It needs to be planned out. Who is doing what? What will Mico specialize in? What will UTech specialize in? What will UE specialize in? What will the community colleges do? It cannot be a free-for-all. We're too small for that. And we have a lot of ambitious principals, and I love them to death. Many of them are my friends. But we can't all do the same thing. We can't all have universities. We have to complement each other. There has to be a pipeline that's understood, an ecosystem that's structured. So we need a STEM education ecosystem. And that has to be planned and thoroughly developed, and more importantly, funded. So some of you might be saying, okay, so if you get the education system right, what happens next? Where does the growth come from? So I want to give you one example, and again, apologies, the diagram is small, but I'll try and describe it to you. So on the right, my right, I think it's your right as well, are the high schools. The font is probably too small for you to see. So I have UTech there, and I'm saying, okay, what's the pipeline for UTech? Because UTech doesn't exist in a vacuum. If the high schools don't produce the graduates, we don't exist. So we get students from the high schools, we get students from the community college, we have some hard people there, and we have some lifelong learners who come back. Before you even get to the high schools, though, you have the primary schools who feed the high schools and so on. You see, the ecosystem has to be connected. So, for example, if you want new mathematicians for tomorrow, they have to be interested in maths from primary school. And then they carry on that mathematical interest straight through, right? So if you have that ecosystem feeding UTech with those STEM students, and then UTech spits out these STEM graduates, then you're going to ask me, where are the jobs? So I'm going to share with you a few ideas. Currently, UTech students are very marketable and they get jobs. But for Jamaica to achieve growth, there's a pivot point that we have to make. And I'm going to use KPOs and IPOs as an example. So KPO, knowledge process outsourcing, and IPO is information process outsourcing. Anybody familiar with BPO? Ever worked in one? No? Or you don't want to admit it? All right. There's no shame in working in the BPO, right? My sister is a banker, and she started out in the BPO sector. Because the jobs in the BPO sector are varied. It's true, my sister, I learned that they do all sorts, and some of them make really good money. There are BPOs where you do sales, and for every sale you get an incentive. So there are people making good money in the BPO. Don't take it too lightly. So the BPO sector is there, but it's services. What I want to do is to keep the engineers I produce. I want to keep all those software engineers in Jamaica. And so what we need to do now is attract companies from overseas to bring those technical jobs to Jamaica. To say, okay, I'm going to set up a company here and employ UTech engineers, Mico mathematicians, computer scientists, right, from UTech, UE, CMU, because I know that they're producing quality graduates. And actually, we're late to the party. India, China, Thailand, Philippines, there are Mexico, and some African KPOs. When I worked at Rolls-Royce, you know how many Indian engineers we employed? 500 Indian engineers. I woke up one morning and the company said, we've opened an office in India. And suddenly I had Indian staff on my team. Now, what would give Rolls-Royce the confidence to open an office in India and employ 500? By the way, Rolls-Royce was late. GE was already there. What would give Rolls-Royce the confidence to go to Singapore, a country the size of St. Thomas? The size of St. Thomas. What would give Rolls-Royce the confidence to go there? You know what we did in Singapore? We built a manufacturing plant for these big jets in Singapore. And what is stopping Rolls-Royce from doing that in Jamaica? The trouble is, we're known for everything else except a highly educated STEM workforce. So we're known for reggae, we're known for tourism, music, food, athletics. What is India known for? Cricket and what? A highly educated engineering workforce. Because India, many, many years ago, invested in their Indian Institutes of Technology. Singapore has the National University of Singapore, and then they have the Nanyang Technological University, which should be the equivalent of UTech. But Nanyang is one of the top universities in the world. And it's in Singapore, a country the size of the parish of St. Thomas. So what is Singapore doing that we're not doing? And are we committed? Are we going to learn? Are we going to copy and learn fast from Singapore and all these countries? Or is it just going to be rhetoric and more rhetoric and more rhetoric? And then guess what? We will continue to have the statistic where 80%, Dr. Pinnock, 80% of Jamaicans who have a degree leave this country. That's the statistic. I was guilty. I was one of the 80%. 23 years gone. And the UK would not let me go. Would not let me go. When I left the University of Nottingham, I had just signed a brand new contract when I went to Rolls-Royce, when I left the university. So is it that one country appreciates a STEM mind and another? My own doesn't. The UK would not let me go. So if we are serious about STEM, the investment required is significant. Because if you look at Singapore, they have invested in their universities. Singapore has a program to deliberately tell their diaspora, all these bright minds, come home. We will pay you, come home. All the leaders in their universities have been brought back through this diaspora program. Where is Jamaica's diaspora program? I meet Jamaicans who are top academics in America every day. Where is the program to bring them home? To Mico, to UTech, to UE? Because those are the minds who are going to pivot these universities into research institutions. They're the ones who are going to give the world confidence that, yes, Rolls-Royce can build a plant in Jamaica because they have the top universities in the world. They produce the top STEM graduates in the world. We must be in Jamaica. They speak English. They're in a perfect geographical location. We need to be there with good engineering jobs. We need to be there with good computing jobs. Microsoft and all these companies should be here. So our task now is hard because Dr. Pinnock and I have to continue producing top quality graduates. But we now need support from stakeholders, government, private sector, to get the jobs here, to attract the investors. But here's the challenge. At the root of it is that we have some deep-seated issues that we need to fix. One, you're all leaving as teachers. 1,500 teachers left in 2023, according to the Guardian newspaper. How many of you in this room plan to stay in Jamaica? I didn't expect to see so many hands go up. Huh? Yes. Well, Dr. Pinnock, I would take the names to see where they are in 5 years' time, you know. Huh? 486 went to the UK. All right? And then the other challenge we have, we are struggling to keep STEM teachers. The next thing is 85% of students are not doing STEM subjects in the high school. And only 33% of them are passing maths. Now, to get into most courses at UTech, you need maths. Teachers, please tell me, when did maths become optional in Jamaican schools? It was never optional in my time. But I hear that the schools are not registering all students for maths. Okay. But UTech doesn't accept city and guilds. Do they know that? So we have a challenge there, right? I have a lot of respect for city and guilds, and in fact we're working with them, but we are yet to accept their qualifications, the stage 4 qualification you're talking about, right? So we have an issue there at the high school level where I am struggling to find a pipeline. I am here worried, thinking, okay, where are my future UTech students going to come from? Only 18% of high schoolers are getting 5 or more CSEC. Of that 18%, some will go on to do CAPE. And those who do CAPE, as much as I'd love them to come to UTech, they're probably going to go to UE. So where are my STEM students going to come from? right? So we have a little dilemma that, that is brewing. And remember that the target to get 5 or more CSEC, the national target is 60%. Last year, we only achieved 18%. To my mind, that's a national crisis, but that's just my personal opinion. We need to really work on attainment. It's a big, big problem, and we have to be careful. I know COVID-19 came and had an impact, but we have to do a correction fairly quickly. So there are serious gaps in our education system. How many teachers are confident using IT equipment? We're saying that we're going to, my friend Andrew Lee at e-learning is introducing smart boards. How many teachers are going to see the smart board and say, open the books, please, class, and the smart board don't even get turned on? Mr. JTA President. I pick it on him, but he has a broad back. He's good. But it's true. They look at the smart board and say, and they're back to this. Oh, there you go. All right. So we have an issue with training the students for ICT. We have an equipment issue, and we have lack of funding, right? Here's another controversial one, and I say controversial because some of you might think, well, what's the problem with this? Girls outperform boys at all levels. Now, on one hand, we should be proud of our girls. I have a daughter, so I am proud of what's going on in terms of female achievement. But we have to be careful. The imbalance is significant. And it will affect STEM because take Yui Mona, 67% female. We know that engineering, for now anyway, is mainly dominated by men. So if you have mostly females going to university, chances are they're not enrolling in engineering. So it means that year on year, you're producing less engineers, right? So we have to be careful. We need a balance. I want the girls to continue to flourish, but teachers, JTA, we need to somehow pull up the boys. It needs to be cool to be a nerd again. You know, I thought, when I do confessions to my mom, because I was so bookish, I used to go to the library after school when I was in high school, and all the girls seemed to admire my studious approach. So there was no, so for me it was pretty cool. I don't know what's happening with the boys. You will still get the girls. They do like men with brains. Right? And so we have to bring up the boys. I'm appealing to Jamaica. We cannot leave the boys behind. When my daughter come up, who is she going to marry? Man with them pants down here and stick a weed in her lip? The JTA president said I should send her to Monroe to find a husband. So we have a problem. We really do. Because I want the girls to continue flourishing. I'm a feminist, right? I push my wife will tell you. But we cannot leave the boys behind. It's a dangerous situation for our country. And we should not sleepwalk into this, right? So there are a few things. I want to be fair to the government, of course. They have introduced scholarships, 2.4 billion STEM scholarships for UTech, supporting 1,000 students over 5 years. Mico also received STEM scholarships, but there are challenges. So here are the challenges. These scholarships require you to have 3 guarantors. How many guarantors do you need for student loan? 0. But these scholarships require 3 guarantors, and you're bonded. Now, I discovered something, Dr. Pinnock, that I am really getting old, because this generation thinks completely different. They don't want to take the loan, and they don't want to take the scholarship because they don't want to be bonded. These are free spirits. These are, I'm telling you, it's a different, I have had, Dr. Pinnock, I don't know if you've had it happen to you, I have had students come and give us back the scholarship because they said, no, I am a global citizen, I won't be bonded. And they give us back the scholarship, Dr. Pinnock. So I'm saying to the government that maybe it sounds okay. It sounds reasonable to you to say, well, there should be guarantors and they should be bonded because it's taxpayers' money. But perhaps we need to think again. Because here's the challenge. With the scholarship, you get a fully financed education, but there's no guaranteed what? No guaranteed job. But you're saying to the student, you're bonded, but you got to figure it out. And so there's a disconnect there, right? And so I'm just saying to the government, let's think about it. They have done a lot of adjustments to student loan. They're thinking really hard about student loan. There are lots of good things happening around student loan. I want them to think really hard again about these scholarships. Generation Z is not my generation. My generation would take the scholarship. And you know, I confess it all the time. I took a government scholarship when I was at UTech, the technical high school scholarship. And as soon as I finished UTech, I left the country. And I was bonded. So now I'm serving my bond, 23 years later. But you have to, as a, but the lecture mash up, Mr. Dr. Pinnock. No, but the point I'm making is this. The point is that I came back. Not only did I come back, my mom will tell you that the whole time I was overseas, like every good diaspora citizen, I was sending back my remittances, right? So the economic benefit, I remember remittances are over 16% of the GDP. Let me repeat that, double digits, remittances. So while I was there, just imagine if the government had bonded me and I said, okay, I'm not leaving. They'd have lost all that. No, they would not get that. And now I'm back. And guess what? Some of my classmates have never left. So it is going to have to be a balance, right? So we need to rethink that. And of course, you have the Boost program at UWI, and it's also offered at UTech, but mostly UWI, sponsored by National Bakery, where they support science students. So these are students who are not doing an education degree. They're just doing a science subject, and they incentivize you financially to take a year of teaching before you know, and hopefully you get hooked and stay in the classroom, right? So that's the approach that they're taking. So I want to just end by saying that we've outlined a few challenges. They're not insurmountable. We need a well-defined STEM education ecosystem, well-defined. We need to know what we're doing. UTech is doing STEM, Mico is doing STEM education, UWI is doing what they're doing, CMU, we all have to, that it has to be well-defined and connected, right? We have to increase training. We want to make sure that when you go in the classroom, you're confident to turn on the smart board and use it, right? So we need to train our teachers. We need to increase funding. How do we keep these teachers from leaving? Maybe if you're a STEM specialist, and this might be controversial, but maybe if you're a STEM specialist like a mathematics teacher, you should be on a higher salary. You should, or you get a special signing on bonus, right? So when you start your first job as a maths teacher, they give a little, a lump sum, right? But I'm saying that we cannot ignore the fact that you need these STEM teachers, right? I'm not neglecting the arts people, but I'm just saying that these people are hard to find. And guess what? You're competing globally. The maths teacher have options. And to show you how this thing is, what is frightening, I thought it was just the STEM teachers that they wanted from overseas. Somebody told me recently that an arts teacher, art as in she teaches painting in schools, was recruited for a school in America. I was like, wow. That was eye-opening because I naively thought it was just the STEM teachers. Art teacher. And by the time they recruited her, in 2 seconds, she was in Atlanta. Gone. They're not joking. So that's why I'm saying if we think that STEM is important, we might have to incentivize these STEM teachers. Give the maths teacher some incentive, whether it's a higher wage, a signing on bonus, something. Right? So I want to end there. And I hope that I've achieved two things. One, that when you hear us talking about STEM, on a personal level, I'm not talking about the country now, just your own personal ambitions. On a personal level, STEM can change your life. A STEM education can and will change your life, right? So I want you to focus on that, right? And keep working hard, get the best degree you can out of Mico, right? Because you're bound for greatness. Hopefully in the classroom, but wherever you go, you're bound for greatness. The other thing I hope I've shown you is that if Jamaica gets really serious about STEM, and attract the right type of investment, we can keep our STEM professionals here. The engineers don't have to go overseas anymore because the jobs will come here if we get serious about STEM, if we are known for world-class STEM universities, UTech, Mico, UE, CMU, if we get known for producing STEM graduates at a critical volume, Canada's 1 and 2, right? Because India has a critical volume of engineers. So everybody know that you go there, you'll get them. So you must know that if you come to Jamaica, yes, they have a critical mass of highly educated STEM graduates. So I hope that with those thoughts I've shared, you believe in Dream Jamaica, because we have come a long way. You have done your 100 and almost 200 years as an institution. Jamaica has done 60 plus. And I am excited about the future of our country. Because if we get it right, this will be the powerhouse of the Caribbean and the region. Thank you very much.
What a journey. I hope you really enjoy the frankness, the personal touch that took us from rural Grangeville to Canepeace to Nottingham. All right, so I know that some of you may have some questions, and before I lose you, especially those who are thinking, oh, we have school tomorrow morning, if you have, we're going to allow you to ask your questions. And we have this gentleman here. Do we have a roving microphone? All right, you have a question as well? All right, so I will take you first because you have that Mico voice. And then
I thought I was the first one. All right, go ahead. Dr. Brown. Sir. You want the mic? I don't need for the street. I'll find my first thing before I go any further. And every mother's dream is to sit proudly in front of her. So, you have a
Sir. Sorry, sir. For streaming purposes, you need the microphone. All right.
Oh, thank you very much. All right, so, for all intents and purposes, my name is Rodney. That's about it. Campbell is my father's name, according to my mother. So, and I believe her. So, I noticed Dr. Brown, like every other great educator, the argument about STEM starts post-high school. That's really where the majority of it is. That universities, tertiary, must invest. Government and JTA and all the stakeholders must invest. if you remember well, and a lot of young people might not understand this country was built on bias. You didn't do technical subjects in high school
If you were bright.
because you were bright. You were relegated to technical as the very last pick. So, for science, I remember now the bias starts in fourth form. For science, for arts, for business, and the rest. And the reason you have the rest is you call them technical. So it's somewhere between, sure you're not gonna wear. You're not gonna make it.
You need a trade.
You're tough. You're dunce. You're a problem student. But to keep you in school, we put you in technical. Or run up good. Or we kick you out there and go learn trade. To this day, we've been encouraging everybody to adapt and adopt STEM. When in truth and in fact, we've never started at the foundation of why technical has never been attractive. Many youngsters, my son involved, wanted to be a pilot. And I said, all right, technical. And when him start checking, him say, oh. It was the first time he was realizing, hold on a minute. In order for me to become a pilot, that means I'm going to have to go into that class, run at that side, with, no. Let me go find accounting. And I'm saying to you, we could deal with this until the cows come home. What we need is the heads of universities and the GATA and all the other stakeholders to sit in a room and ask, not what we're going to put on boards to talk about what we're doing for bonding, things like boost and what have you, and even tertiary education through student loans. Not the gratification or the gratuitous nature of it after the fact, but how we're going to incentivize it when the children are 10 years old, when they're 5, 10. That same thing that grabbed you, you realize you weren't going to that school. You were going somewhere else, and ended up there. We don't have children who want to go there in the first place. So, I'm not the educational expert. Mico is. But I'm saying, I don't know that I'm looking at painting a house when I have not yet started on the foundation of it. Bless it.
Wow. Right, so if I could just respond very quickly. It's up. So you make a really good point because, and you're right. You notice when I said, Herbert Morrison was known for football. I mean, they've turned the school around now, and it is actually a good academic school. But when I was there, yes, you got streamed off in engineering. Maybe in my naivety and excitement, I was happy to be pursuing what I loved. But in the back of my mind, I was kind of aware of it because all the students who were considered non-performing were just automatically shoved into, they had an automotive stream. And so they were all told, you're doing automotive, right? So you did see that bias. And even at the time when I was at Herbert Morrison, the students who were streamed off into science or business walked with a higher step, were a bit more aloof, got the best teachers assigned to them. You got me reflecting now. And my question, though, is do you see a change? Because I think STEM is kind of helping, I hope, to reposition these technical subjects. But I'll admit to you, I am not in the field. I am at Papi in there at the university, and maybe it's the JT or yourself to tell me, is there a shift? I sense there's a shift. And if we continue to fit out the schools, put more robotics labs in the schools, you'll notice, for example, that even Heart is having to reinvent trades and skills. So if you go to Heart now, they'll tell you, you can do robotics at Heart. Heart has drones, and so Heart is pivoting as well. And so I think that there's a shift. But I stand to be corrected because admittedly I'm not in the trenches. But you're right, during my time, yes, there was a stigma. I pray that's changed.
And it has, as an educator practicing, it has changed a lot. I can't find enough spots for my mechanical engineering students and my electrical students. So it depends on the school. And it started as a grammar school, but we do very well. Every year, for this year, we had a top student for mechanical engineer, and we have 7 students who made the regional awards for electrical and electronics at the Cape level. So the stigma somewhat has changed, and it depends on the school and what you put in place. So even though it's technically a grammar school, we have realized that because it's an all-boys school, it needed technical programs in place to keep the interest of the boy. This year we introduced agricultural science right in the heart of Kingston. So the stigma is changing. Some bright minds are going in those areas because they have done their research and realized there's money there. So because they want the money and engineers are paid well, they will go in that field. All right, question.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Dr. Brown, I must tell you that I enjoyed the presentation and that I think it was a good presentation which was intriguing and had my mind going all over the place about where STEM would be. I had looked at it myself, but something struck me about what you said earlier on, and I'm looking back at where we are now with certain fundamental situations. You said in your early days that your mother allowed you to pick up all kinds of metal and all kinds of screws and what have you on the road in your bag to take off. What you referred to, which we probably should not overlook, is a fundamental. We're looking at results here and impact, but we can't ignore process, actually, because that's fundamental and important. What your mother allowed you to do was to develop in the early years your education, that you could play, you could do all the things that a child between, say, 2 and 5 or 2 and 7 need to do in order to develop your education at that fundamental level. Now, I am a chairman of a basic school, and I'm finding that within that basic school, 40% of parents are able to pay their school fees. 60% do not pay at the basic school level. I am also looking at 2 other early childhood institutions where the private sector bought the entire school compound and everything and let the children go, and they're going to do housing development. There's another one down the road from there near to Mona High School where the school is taken out completely, another housing development. There's another school near to your institution where they were levying a heavy taxation, had to be backed off, and they were even trying to move the school, except that the person who set the school up also put a caveat in there that the school shall never be closed except that they can move around inside the area. So if we're moving out all the early childhood educations, where will the children play? And fundamentally, we have an act and a regulation that very few schools at this time, early childhood schools, are able to meet. I recall earlier on also that when we did, I'm sorry if I take a little long, when I was doing a particular project for Bernard Van Leer Foundation, I went and did an auditory and visual test of the schools that were in the program. And 50%, as much as 50% of those students at that early age needed glasses, needed hearing aids, and had major issues dealing with the situation at the fundamental level. So if we don't deal with that level, then our STEM program will go down the drain. What do you have to say about that situation?
Well, in short, I agree with you totally. And I think that's why I'm emphasizing the educational ecosystem, where you have to look at all the levels, whether early childhood, primary, high school, you can't leave any of them behind. So what you're saying is really troubling, that schools are being bought up by developers. That's a national problem, by the way, in terms of developers wanting to buy everything. But I didn't realize they had gone into schools now and they're taking them out. So I hope that something is done in terms of restraining that sort of behavior. But fundamentally, all the schools, early childhood education in particular, has to be treated with the same level of commitment and input in terms of the STEM curriculum.
If I may, Chair, may I add something to that? And I agree with Mr. Campbell here and my friend position in terms of where it should begin, where it should start, the foundation. And it says that the first 5 years is the formative years. That's when and in fact at 7, you were collecting nuts and bolts and you were destroying your mother's stereo and fan. And thank you, Mommy, for allowing him to do so. And that's why in the STEM ecosystem, as you describe it, we know exactly what we want here in the Mico. We are producing the teachers to serve the fundamental areas that we're talking about, the early childhood and the primary and the secondary school system, to supply you, for example, UTech, with the graduates for STEM. And in fact, we are going further, that this summer, we are beginning this summer with a summer program for 50 early childhood students in STEM. We already have a sponsor who is willing to fork out $5.8 million to us to have a 1-month camp for early childhood students not from the upscale area, from inner city areas around the Mico. So we understand where it begins.
Fantastic.
All right, we have a question from the live chat, so I will read. It is, what solution may we put on the table for current STEM students on the scholarship who have issues getting guarantors?
Right, so we have been lobbying the Ministry of Finance on this, and what they're doing is it's kind of case by case. So they're not, if you don't have all 3, but say you have 1, they'll still allow you to take up the scholarship and give you time, in quotes, to find the other guarantors. So I wouldn't let that stop anyone from applying for the scholarship, because it is case by case, and if you only have 1 guarantor, but everything else is in order, you will get the scholarship. You should get it. But my position is that they should reflect on these things and perhaps remove them.
All right, thank you. And we have Mr. JTA who wants to ask his question. He was in line before you, but go ahead since the microphone is up there.
All right, thank you very much. Thanks, Sir President, for that inspiring presentation. I just want to reflect on college education earlier. In my time, we had what we call a preliminary group system, where students could enter college through, a preliminary group. That is, they could do subjects and matriculate into the teaching program. At this stage, since we are focusing on STEM to that extent, do you think that is something that we could revisit in terms of trying to really build capacity with a number of students in our STEM programs? Do you think that is something that, that we could look at and give, some thought to in terms of implementing that to build numbers in the institutions?
Right. So I hear Dr. Pinnock saying that the 6th form pathway program might be that program, but kind of like a pre-university, junior, kind of pre-university type program. So I mean, we've applied to be part of the 6th form program. We're waiting on the Ministry of Education, but we would like to be there, sort of pre-university. And and Mico is doing sixth form as well. So there are institutions like Mico, I think, even UCC.
St. Joseph's.
Yes, so there are a few schools, tertiary institutions who are already providers on the sixth form pathway program. So I think there is some element of that happening already. I don't know if the ministry has done any review on the performance of the sixth form pathway program. It's been introduced now for a few years. Is it doing what it was meant to do? Apart from keeping students in school for an additional 2 years, are there other outcomes that are evolving from it? So it'd be good to see, if it's been assessed and whether it's performing what it, but UTech would want to go in that space. I think it's an opportunity as well for students who aren't quite sure after doing the CSEC to still have an extended time to think about, okay, what do I really want to do in the future?
Go ahead.
Dr. Brown, really inspiring presentation. It was a pleasure listening to you. And particularly around the idea how we can develop our education system to take better advantages of the changing landscape as it relates to STEM and where the world economy is going. I want to touch briefly on what my colleague there mentioned about reimagining education. That's in essence what you're saying. We need to reimagine education to meet the needs of the present realities that we face. And I'll give you an example. When I got to Monroe College 10 years ago, I remember, much like George's, it's a grammar type school. And I started, really trying to repivot the entire institution around the concept of more technical subjects. I had massive pushback from parents, just like what you're saying. And they're saying, no, I don't want my boy to go into agriculture. I don't want my boy to go into electrical. No, he has to be a doctor or a lawyer. And I remember I had a showdown with some of my old boys around it. They said, you want to turn Monroe into a technical school. We're a grammar school. And I said, you are talking about a system that no longer exists. Because we have been so enamored and caught up with this concept of a colonial education system that was really designed for a different era, an era in which we needed people to administer the colony. That's why you needed a bunch of accountants, you need the lawyers, you need those people who would help to administer, and so you only need a small number of them. Hence we have a small number of quote-unquote traditional high schools, yeah? But that does not really seek to empower the wide cross-section of our people. We have to reimagine a Jamaican education system that empowers every single child, that there's no child that is left behind in this transformation. And I believe STEM holds a critical key in that, yeah? In having that conversation. And a bigger part of that conversation must also resonate in the fact that we must understand that children develop along different learning trajectories. We often forget that. I've seen kids who are usually probably a C student, but by the end of high school, that kid could be an A student. Given an additional 2 years post-high school, that kid would catch up at the A student who had started off. We get caught up with this notion of exceptionalism, that our children have to be exceptional from grade 1, or else they're just not good enough. We have to change that program. We have to see ourselves as holding such value, every single child. I believe that by democratizing STEM, getting it into every single school, that is where it's at. And so while I laud the Prime Minister on the efforts towards creating these STEM schools, I've put forward to the Minister of Education, and JT's position is that let's do one STEM school in the country. And I've traveled around the world looking at these STEM schools. Let's do one STEM school. And that becomes an aspirational model of where we want to go as a country. And then the money you're going to use on the other 5, upgrade every single high school. Lab. And if you do that, you are impacting every single high school child. The second part, which is so critical, and I've pushed this from day one, I've met the minister, and I really think she has bought into the notion, is that, Minister, we need to have a guarantee like Finland. Finland says every single child leaving primary school must be able to do math, so you're literate, you're numerate, and you are literate moving into high school. The problem we face is that to really address the issues in numeracy and literacy, it costs us 10 times more to do that at the high school level had we just addressed it at the primary school level. So we can't have this constant pipeline, you're pushing out people who are not reading, and it's frustrating the teachers, it's frustrating the parents, it's frustrating the students. The country is doling out money for programs that really should be at the primary level to get them. Once we do that, we are able to unleash a latent potential in our people that will resonate for generations. We can then take advantage of the tremendous work being done at UTech and other institutions. But I believe that it's going to lie in us making them connect the dots. Finally, I'm going to actually wrap up with a question, but finally, we need them to understand there is no version of a successful, economically viable, or progressive Jamaica that does not have education as a catalyst for that change. We are fooling ourselves when we believe that there's some version that if we come out and we make enough speeches, and this goes across political parties, we make the speeches, because it's not a PMP, it's not a JLP issue. This is a way in which our governments collectively have been thinking that if we make enough speeches, if we articulate enough about it, it will just magically appear. It means investing in university, Mico University College, investing in Church Teachers College, investing to ensure that we have teachers equipped and are able to deliver the quality curriculum that we want. Yeah? That is what's going to change the reality. Yeah? It's not in hoping that in some way later on, because you are one of them that worked. Yeah? You're an engineer. You know, as I listen to you, I remember my one journey. I was at the Mico, sitting under the tree around there when I got a letter from a university I wrote. And I wrote to that university asking for a scholarship to do automotive engineering. And I remember getting the letter back. I got accepted, but I had a 60% scholarship. And I'll never forget just how heartbroken I felt when I wouldn't be able to take it up. Because 60%, although they gave me 60%, the 40% was millions of Jamaican dollars. And so I remember that dream dying with me. But I know God has a way of just putting you in the right place. Now, however my life turned out, I helped so many kids to move on and get into jobs similar like that, get those courses. And that's what I do at Monroe College. And our entire engineering program is focused. But a big part is how we sell the programs. So what I do, to graduate from Monroe, when I came in 10 years ago, I changed the matriculation requirement. You had to have one technical subject to graduate. And all of a sudden, every single boy now does technical subject. The other thing we did that was so critical in that transformation, we changed the name. So when they came to me and said, the program is called mechanical, whatever, I said, no, it's going to be the engineering. So you're going to be automotive, everything was engineering at the end of it. And all of a sudden, people want to be an engineer. You didn't want to be an automotive technician, but they want to be an automotive engineer. So the way in which we market these things to people is critical and foundational in changing and getting buy-in from people. Huh? So my question to you as an academic, as a scholar, as a person I greatly respect, is how can we partner around the need to get our politicians to listen to us? Because that's the fundamental problem we have. Right now we have launched a Go Fund public education campaign, and the JT has partnered with Education International, and the idea is trying to get the government to listen to us. We need greater investments in education, just like what you're saying. We have to be strategic. We're a small island state with limited resources, so we cannot be duplicating many other things. We need to ensure that there are specialized universities, specialized teachers' colleges, so we use the little we have, but we use in a strategic way. How can you help to advance that conversation? Thank you.
Well, first of all, let me just congratulate you on what you're doing at Monroe, because this is a great Monroe, right? And I know I was going into some slippery territory there, you know. But this is the great Monroe that is now, you know, being transformed in terms of STEM, right? So I want to congratulate you on that transformation. It means that I will be seeing hopefully more Monroe graduates at UTech. Here's the thing. What is good about tonight's conversation is that we're saying the same thing. We're saying the same thing. So whenever the minister meets any of us, she can't pick off one of us and say, boy, you know, because we're all saying the same thing. And we didn't plan this, by the way, you know, that in terms of coming here tonight and being in such accord. But that's good, because I think that's the first step, is that in lobbying the government, we have to be united in our position, right? And so it's very clear that that is evident tonight. in terms of lobbying them, every chance I get to speak to ministers, I repeat myself persistently in terms of what we need to do to develop the country's education system and the support that is required. You cannot have a national university like UTech that continues to struggle year on year to fund itself, right? We just have to bite the bullet and look at what's required to make the university financially viable, because right now we continue to struggle year on year. So despite the turnaround plans that we have for the institution, the financial investments are still found wanting, right? And the thing with STEM education is that it doesn't work without infrastructure, right? I don't know how you've achieved that at Monroe, but I'm sure in order to convince parents to put their boys into your engineering program, you have to have the machine shops and the appropriate equipment and labs to ensure that they can do the SBAs successfully. At UTech, we have the same problem. You know, my electric bill can range between $16 to $20 million per month. Right? So just the electricity alone, right? And then we went on the central sewage system, which means that your water bill doubles. So now I'm paying around $13 million per month to NWC. So just my water and electric bill alone is eye-watering, right? So I'm saying that a STEM education, this whole infrastructure you require is going to be expensive, right? And that's not. I'm not even talking about the labs and all the equipment. So we will continue to work in unison because we're saying the same thing. We believe in the same message in terms of how we're going to transform the country, and let us keep lobbying all the politicians on both sides. But at the same time, I want to just add that I'm sure you have a very strong alumni, and the Miconians, I see, are very committed. Our alumni have a role to play in giving back, right? They have a role to play in upgrading our facilities. UTech has 60,000 alumni. We need them to give back. We have the private sector, and Boost, by the way, is sponsored by the private sector, by the National Baking Company, by Butch Hendricks. We need more companies now to say, okay, we're going to sponsor a similar program. So the government has a role to play, but we have to lobby the private sector. We have to lobby and engage our alumni as well.
Sure.
After.
All right, good evening, everyone. First, I will say, Dr. Brown, that was a very interesting presentation because it actually grabbed my interest as a maths upcoming teacher. And what I'm concerned is that you mentioned in a similar sentence that without the enrollment of students in university, there is no university, right? So I was saying, specifically speaking and with STEM students in the high school, the student that you're looking for to come into these universities, why not come up with an initiative to say, okay, these students, why not provide them with the scholarship to, okay, move over from the high school into these universities to actually pursue these STEM programs and stuff? Because I am from St. Elizabeth, Magati High School, and I did electrical engineering. And at that time, we were so interested in engineering. We also went in a competition that I think it was Favor Williams, Miss Favor Williams, that provide a competition about electrical or energy saving, and we won because we did a survey of the school, how tall is the light bill at the school, which was 800,000, and when we do all of what we had to do, it came down to 200,000, and we were granted a $5 million solar
project
panel, and yes, and up till now, from 2019, the school, has not yet gotten that $5 million solar system. So what I'm saying is that solar panel. Sorry. So what I'm saying is that knowing that I was an electrical student and I'm from a background where my parents cannot provide for me the way I wanted to go into the university to actually pursue that knowledge or pursue that degree. I was enrolled in UA at first, but seeing the 1.5, which is 10 to US dollar for the electrical engineering degree, which I could not manage. What I'm saying is that provide the opportunity for students in these rural schools, because we speak about Monroe and we speak about our technical schools, but what about these high schools? For example, Magati, Lackover, there's a lot of students there that are really interested in the technology, in STEM overall. And my batch, the 2019 batch, because I did sixth form, and I also came down on the Caribbean list for electrical, and that dream went straight down the drain, but it's still there, and I'm still going to pursue after doing the teacher degree. But what I'm saying is that make the scholarship or make the opportunity for these students from the school, the high school, to say, okay, pass over into the university. So now that dream that they had all along, they can have it and say, okay, I actually have something to fund me to university, so I don't have to change my mind to say I will go and, do other stuff.
Well, Dr. Pino kind of answered your question because he whispered to me that we have the STEM scholarships, and these are full tuition scholarships from the government. And someone like you, if you have 5 CSEC, I think for UTech you might need CAPE maths. But if you have all of that, you could qualify to come in, to matriculate, and also qualify for the STEM scholarship. So the STEM scholarships are there. And we have other scholarships that are provided by private sector stakeholders. So, you can access these scholarships. But the more important point you made, which is a fair point, is that here we are talking about technicalized schools or prestigious schools like Monroe, and really it should be about leaving no school behind, right? It should be about leaving no school behind. It should be an egalitarian system, and that's the big challenge for us. How do you ensure that all schools are uplifted and are on the same level as well? That's a big challenge for us.
The critical issue that we have not been looking at is the whole issue of finance and education. At the primary level, the government currently, apart from teachers' salary, is paying $2,500 per year per child. The secondary school is about $18,000, $19,000. And almost the tertiary sector, I'm certain that Dr. Pinnock is under-resourced, inability to fund these programs because we are not putting enough in finance and education. I'm sorry that you have the same problem at UTech. And until we seriously look at finance and education, put in the necessary resources, all that we're doing is possible thing. What is your views in terms of what is the cost per child at a different level to really resource the institution so that we can provide proper investment and probability in getting the system going?
Right, that's a great question. That's something we're working on right now at UTech. So we're reviewing a lot of things. The economic cost of the student is under review, and that will include a review of the tuition system. And one of the things that we want to do is to ensure that the university remains accessible, so the tuition is not too high that it will put students off, like the young man just said, from attending. But at the same time, we have to cover our expenses. So we're doing that review right now. Each university, each school, I'm sure Mico will have its own calculations as to how much it costs to educate a Miconian year on year. UTech we have our own calculations, and we're reviewing those calculations right now. And at the same time, we have to make sure that it's market competitive as well. So it's a balancing act. And even though we're also trying to diversify our income stream beyond just the government, we still need the government to still balance the books. So everyone has a role to play, and then we're just trying to navigate that space right now. But the challenge for us is how do we upgrade the facilities fast enough to keep up with the technological changes happening, because as a STEM-focused institution, we have to ensure that the students are exposed to the latest and greatest technology, and that is the biggest challenge we have right now in terms of upgrading all the labs, all the equipment. Just to give you an example, we have a Bachelor's of Arts in Technology course where we teach students all the behind-the-scenes activities that happen to produce TV and other broadcast activities. So it means that we have to train them on the cameras and everything like that. And the students will tell you that what we train them on compared to what they get exposed to when we send them on internship, it's like they have to be retrained when they go out on internship on the equipment. So our challenge now is to, okay, how can we buy cameras each year to keep up with the technology so that the students don't go out there feeling like, how do I operate this thing? So that's the challenge. That's just an example of the need out there. And that I think the government has to look at that in terms of financing the sort of that approach there. And it's an interesting, because the HEART model, HEART is funded by a tax essentially that corporations pay. It's worked out really well in terms of the amount of income it generates for HEART. Should that model be extended to tertiary education? I don't know, it's a question, but we do need to find a more sustainable way of financing our schools.
All right, thank you. Our final question.
Good evening. You spoke about the ecosystem, the introduction of the ecosystem within the schools. Could we propose that the government look into putting grants out there for students to be interested in doing the subjects that you need to get into the STEM programs? Because we know that JPS does it for electrical technology, and there's no other one that really focus on it like JPS. So I think that the government can look into doing that, so that when we're doing it as career opportunities in 9 grades, students from rural areas, just like yourself, sir, as I said, with single mothers and so forth, because I believe that the parents too push us into doing subjects that they think we need and not necessarily what we're passionate about.
Yes, that's a challenge, and even me as a parent, we try to resist that temptation, for sure. So I just want to remind you that the government has invested or is investing 2.4 billion in STEM scholarships, right? For UTech and also for Mico, right? So you do have those scholarships, So you're saying they should have additional grants. Bear in mind the announcements for student loan now include grants as well. So, no? Oh.
Yeah, but let me. At the CSEC level, the government pays for assigned subject and IT. Right. So yes, I think persons would appreciate maybe the technical drawing and mechanical, but they do pay for one science subject and for information technology. Also, NCB has shifted from business to IT and computer science. All right.
Was the
somebody
microphone?
wants to say something. That was the last question. However, I will allow you to make the comment if the microphone could reach to you as quickly as possible. And I hope no one has any burning question that wasn't answered.
Having listened to all the speakers as well as the presenter, as a career development specialist, I do believe that career education is very important where this is concerned. And I think we have overlooked career education in the schools. It's started for some time now, but there needs to be an improvement, because we have spoken about cultural biases, we have spoken about lack of information, misinformation, and also dysfunctionality as it relates to career, to choices and how they think about subjects and
So the whole area of career education, I think, should also be borne in mind when we think about STEM. Not many persons, students know about the opportunities that exist and why they are doing these subjects and how the careers that could impact them positively. So there needs to be more in career education. And I'm speaking from the Ministry of Education level as well, because not everything exists in the school where there is career awareness, career exploration, rather than just having a careers day, you know, when students come up, pick up information, pick up things, and they're not really aware of many of the things. So there needs to be a structured program in the schools and to include the STEM education.
That's a great point. I totally agree with you. And especially this Generation Z who are quite exploratory, they do need that additional guidance as to where this education can take them. I couldn't allow the program to end without acknowledging my wife, so I can go home in peace. So my wife is here as well. She came after we started, Professor Judy Muthuri. So welcome.
If she could stand, please.
You
Yes,
wanted
we
to
need to
stand,
see
Judy?
her so that we can acknowledge. All right, we will say he traveled the first class, just that the first class came afterwards. So we have no more questions, but I hope that we are leaving here, that those who are in the classroom, those who are educators, we have a lot to do. We have to ensure that the students are not being pushed into areas that we know may have no value for them, or that we have to think of the total development, not only of the students, but the communities they are coming from, and of course, our country. So, ladies and gentlemen, we now need not to be consumers, but STEMers. So we are going to, those who are here, we need to be putting on our innovative caps. We need to start creating. And when you go out in the classroom, for those who are in training now, that you'll go with the passion of your subject, that everybody will want to do your particular subject. They want to do the math, they want to do the industrial techniques, and they will be passionate about STEM. The program continues. We now have a musical item. Oh, I'm so sorry. So we have a, I'm going to invite Miss Dr. Morris, or before Dr. Morris, I would like Mr. Lawson, the chairman, to give a few closing remarks. Then we'll ask Dr. Morris to make, Dr. Claudette Morris to make the presentations.
Not at all, sir. So I must say that the conversation was indeed a good one, and the audience, as they were asked to listen deeply and reflect critically and to engage meaningfully, that was done. Dr. Brown, indeed, it was thought-provoking, and I believe that as we move forward from this place tonight, what you've said will not die, but we will act on it. I believe that the Mico is committed, and those who are here among us as educators are also committed to seeing much of this through, because we believe that here in our Jamaica, we have the resources in our people. And if we're committed to ensure that we avail the space and the opportunity, we will make good of this nation as we move forward. I want to say thanks to all of you on behalf of the Mico Old Students Association, because we were a bit worried at the outset if we would actually have this sort of audience. But it is wonderful, heartwarming to know that the students have remained until this hour. And I want to implore our students to remember tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning, I'm heading there, Doc, but I'm dealing with our students. Tomorrow morning, we'll bring the curtains down on Mico Week. You know, this year we are celebrating our 189th year of existence, and we are gearing up to move into 2026 to celebrate our 190th year, moving forward to our 200th year. But thanks again to every single one of you for making this evening a success. And I rest. Thank you, sir.
Dr. Morris? And after Dr. Morris, I would ask that Mr. Leo Williams, Jr., get ready to do the acknowledgement.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to make a presentation. But before, I'd like to make note of a vacant seat. Miss Owen, Mr. Glen Owen's niece, is always present at these events every year. And so it's notable, you know, that she expressed, you know, concern she wasn't going to be here because of things that she could not have avoided. So we want to say we are thinking about you, because I know she's watching, and you're in our hearts and prayers, and we miss you this evening. So it's not very often that I get to be in the room, right, with my two favorite presidents. So I have here Dr. Pinnock and Dr. Brown, and this evening was very interesting. Oh, the clicker, but nothing happened, right? I just need to bang it a little bit harder. So, as everybody has said and will agree, that the presentation this evening was awesome, wholesome, and it's something that we could all embrace. And the vote of thanks will be given, so I'm not going to get into that, but I want to say we really appreciate the presentation. And as such, and as Miconians doing with our might, we want to give you a presentation this evening to help you remember your experience here today. So if you just step forward. Yes.
Oh, that's the Mico.
Yes.
The bridge builder.
Yes.
Mr. Photographer, you're good.
So, Mr. Photographer, let's come on somewhere. Mom, there's no screws on there for him to pull out at this stage, so that's okay. So to our moderator, moderator in training, you know, through Myconian, right? She went with our STEM education presentation and also incorporated what she's doing at her school. So everything came around full circle. We appreciate your presentation this evening with us, and thank you so very much. I understand I have 2 envelopes here. House with most students present and house with the second most students present. So are we looking now, what am I starting with, AG? Are we doing house count? Stand, and somebody count. Somebody keeping tally of the number, right? AG is how many? Okay, so AG 9 I hear. Okay. So we can, okay, 9, okay. Buxton. Oh, wow. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. How many? Okay.
16? Okay.
Still don't believe in it. Rogers.
Rogers.
Okay, Bishop. Oh, okay, 11. Lushington. Okay. So that's 4. Okay, so that's 4. Okay, so the winner is Buxton with 16 students, and second is Rogers with 14. So who is representing? You just got here?
No, I was here.
All right. Thank you so much for attending. All right.
The counting continues tomorrow.
Okay, where's the other house person? Okay, congratulations, getting you guys out. Okay. All right.
We will not argue about the houses and the huts. There's only one house, Buxton. All right, so we won't start the house war, but we have come to the end, near end, of a wonderful evening, a well spent. Think of what you would have been doing, maybe wasting time, sleeping, eating. However, what you got here today is more than food. And one of the things I have realized that we still have persons who love good conversations, who love thought-provoking conversations where you can think. And we are all a group of thinkers in here. I feel confident when I look and see students at 9:13 in a lecture, asking questions, being engaged. Always find things to feed your mind. Always find and listen to persons who can motivate you to be better. We have those who will say, no, you can't. Don't listen to them. Go to those who say you can and you will. So we want to thank very much Dr. Brown and for all the persons who participated online and in physical presence right here. So we'll turn over to Mr. Leo Williams, Jr., who will bring the acknowledgement. Where is Mr.? Okay.
Good evening, Mr. President, Dean of Students, Melrose Foster Committee Chair, Miss Claudette. Where's Miss Claudette disappeared to? Well, there we go. Good evening, students, and congratulations. You have fed me tonight because I have been heartened by your attention, by your contribution, by your interaction with all of the constant stream of positive educational development that has been coming from everyone that stepped to this microphone. Everybody made a contribution. I made notes until I ran out of paper to write on. Miss Dean of the Registrar's Office, who exhorted us to use STEM to position ourselves in the marketplace and always be more marketable. The president, who I know has a passion for STEM and has made it his mission for Mico to embrace that passion for STEM. So you all know when you were coming into this room that this was as much a baby of Mr. Brown's, Dr. Brown's, sorry, that as it is for Dr. Pinnock. Your feedback to each and every presenter, to each and every question asked, gave me hope. I'm very used to seeing students, when they're asked who will stay after their program is concluded in Jamaica, the majority keep their hands down. And those who keep their hands up are going into politics. So I am heartened to see that maybe that passion of Dr. Pinnock's and that passion project of Dr. Brown's will have worthy recipients and inheritance in this room today. You are the best of the Mico that I have seen so far, and you've made me very proud. Now to thanks. An evening like this cannot happen without people working behind the scenes tirelessly. People who give of their time, their resources, and their money to make it happen. And I'd like to recognize at this time Pat's Flower Shop, Quest Security. I'm trying to do this without looking at the paper. Quest Security. Okay, I'm failing. Right. Pat's Flower Shop, Quest Security, Chris and Charles Investments, and the Mico Foundation. In addition, we'd like to recognize Joan Garfield, Valerie Hutchinson, and Hugh Morris for their contributions. Lastly, we'd like to thank the members of the Education Committee. That would be Joan Garfield, Valerie Hutchinson, myself, and Miss Melrose Foster. To all of us, I say thank you, and to all of you, I say good luck, and you've given me hope, and I hope to see you become as great as Dr. Pinnock and Dr. Brown's greatest expectations. Thank you. Have a good night.
And the evening could not be complete without singing the University College song. So refreshment is available. And I know students are normally very hungry. And I see one of mine there who was a hungry student right there. Yes, he's trying to hide from me. So we're all going to stand and we are going to sing lustily the University College song. Mr. Lawson, could you come to the microphone as if.
2, 3. Let us remember the names of our founders, honor and laud them, acclaim and revere. Take them for models of action and conduct, guide and inspire us throughout our career. Patience, endurance, unstinted devotion, passion and service for others their dole. Never they yielded to forces opposing, stayed not their work for the space of an hour. We go forth from the walls of the Mico, forth to lead others as we have been led. See that we move no ideals that are lofty, emulate Mico's illustrious stead. Onward forever, then children of the Mico, build them a monument shining and great. Give them the weakness of noble ambition, labor as they did for God and the state. Life opens out with its vital decision, trials, perplexities, trouble, and pain. See that we lose not the hopes and the vision, breathe not the spirit of Mico in vain. For the future in faraway places, tenderly time to our minds may restored. Voices familiar and friendly old faces, shall we not long for the Mico once more? With your might, with your might, with your might, with your might, with your might. What your hands find to do, that's the way. With a will in your work and your play.